Chapter 6:27. Very good. Let's sweep through the world. Liu withdrew his gaze and nodded with a smile. Although it's a bit risky to spoil things through excessive enthusiasm, everything is under control. He looked up and saw a streak of yellow light whizzing over from underground. Dragon Son Basha appeared before Liu. Greetings to the ancestral master. I've accomplished my mission. Basha bowed and presented the talisman to Liu. Ancestral master, the wall of demons and gods has been stored in the talisman. Very good. Liu nodded and took the talisman, putting it away in the vault. Basha, you've reached the peak of the sovereign realm. You should consider ascending to immortality. Dragon Son Basha had cultivated the human immortal martial Tao Liu had taught him, the true Basha method. He'd also cultivated the earth scripture, so his strength had reached peak sovereign. One more step, and he'd be a true immortal. However, ascending to immortality was extremely difficult in this world. The Great War of the Immortal Era had shattered the world and left the Great Tao incomplete. Without a complete Great Tao, it was difficult for cultivators to ascend to the immortal realm. For countless cultivators in the current era, the shattered world had entered an age of decline. It was impossible to ascend to immortality. However, that wasn't a problem for Liu. The group of Dark Immortal Kings and Dark Immortal Generals in the Resource Vault had all comprehended complete Grand Taos and become Eternals. I have a brand of the Immortal Tao here. Study it well and lay a foundation for immortality. There is also a stone golem in the vault who'd cultivated the Heavenly Boulder method to become an Immortal King. This Earth Attribute cultivation method was very compatible with Basha. Therefore, the Stone Golem King's comprehension was very suitable for Basha. With a flick of his finger, Liu sent the Stone Golem King's comprehension of the Immortal Tao into Basha's soul. Thank you for your gift, Ancestral Master. The Heavenly Boulder method of the Immortal Era and the comprehension of the Immortal King realm was a great opportunity for Basha. Of course, this thing was not without its drawbacks. If Basha cultivated this art and accepted the enlightenment of the Immortal Tao, he would be disrupted by the Stoneman Immortal King's enlightenment of the Immortal Tao. In the future, he would only be an Immortal King at most. For Basha, ascending to immortality was already a blessing from the heavens. Immortal King? Wasn't that enough? In the lower realms, it's extremely difficult to become a god. Becoming an immortal is even more out of the question. Liu knew that if Basha really did become a true immortal in the lower realms, the 8 realms would likely crumble. If he wanted to become an immortal, he naturally had to go to the upper realm. The reason why Liu gave Basha the Stone Golem Immortal King's Immortal Tao insights was also an experiment. If Basha could ascend to the immortal realm, then the insights and strength of the 8 Immortal Kings and 80 Immortal Generals Liu had recruited would be of use. If a group of true Immortals or even Immortal Kings appear in Stone Village, the situation of Heavenly Emperor Huang fighting alone will definitely change. Therefore, Stone Village must also speed up. Looking in the direction of Stone Village, Liu waved his hand. System, extract the insights of Immortal Kings and Generals and integrate them into the mortal realm. In the lower realms, the venerated realm was the apex. There were only a few who'd ignited their divine flames and ascended to the spirit realm. For the people of Stone Village, having the comprehension of the mortal realm was enough for the time being. Liu's actions were spoiling things by pulling up seedlings. If he wanted to give Heavenly Emperor Huang an army, he had to speed up Stone Village's cultivation. The insights of the 8 Immortal Kings and 80 Immortal Generals in the mortal realm would definitely be correct. They would definitely be able to point to the Immortal Tao. If Stone Village's people obtained these insights, their path to the mortal realm would be a smooth one. With sufficient insights and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth that Liu had spent a true immortal's immortal force, Stone Village's cultivation would soar rapidly. In the lower realms, the entire village is venerated. That's simply frightening. Liu smiled. With a flick of his finger, he sent this cultivation insight into the Tao Enlightenment Hall that Xiaohao had built in Stone Village. There's enough spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the practice field. The Tao Enlightenment Hall has complete cultivation insights, and you can enter the Void God realm at any time to train your battle experience. Even if you're a pig, I'll make you into a strong pig. Stone Village. Since moving to the demonic spirit lake, Stone Village had been transformed several times. At this moment, Stone Village was already atop Sacred Mountain. In the demonic spirit lake, spiritual chi was vast and mighty. On the demonic spirit mountain, immortal clouds lingered and auspicious light shone. Of course, the most terrifying thing was still Stone Village's practice field. In this practice field, Liu had sealed the power of a true immortal. This power turned into spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It was boundless and incomparably huge. It was simply unimaginable. If Liu hadn't set up a seal and slowly released the spiritual chi, the entire practice field would have turned into a huge spiritual chi crystal. Within Stone Village, apart from the martial arts practice field, the most popular building was the Tao Comprehending Hall. It increased one's perception and accelerated one's comprehension of heavenly treasured arts. This allowed many of Stone Village's uncouth people to feel the joy of their intelligence exploding. Wong. At this time, in Stone Village's Tao Enlightenment Hall, a trembling sound suddenly rang out. It was as if heaven and earth were resonating, and the great Tao was resonating. What happened? The change in the Tao Enlightenment Hall made everyone in Stone Village shocked. They hurriedly ran out from various places and hurried towards the Tao Enlightenment Hall. Please don't let any problems happen. Xiaohao, that brat isn't here. If something happens, we won't be able to solve it. The old chief ran towards the Tao Enlightenment Hall with a face full of worry. When he passed by the center of the village, he saw a willow tree that was as green as jade. The old chief's footsteps paused, and he hurriedly asked the willow deity for help. Willow deity, Xiaohao's Tao Enlightenment Hall has changed. We don't know what's going on. Can you go take a look? The old chief ran to the side of the altar and prayed to the willow deity. I already know. With a flash of green light, the willow deity's figure appeared in front of the old chief. There definitely won't be any problems with the Grand Emperor's things. However, it's also good to go take a look. The willow deity nodded and followed the old chief to the Tao Enlightenment Hall. They actually did this? The moment the willow deity's soul touched it, she immediately understood the changes in the Tao Enlightenment Hall. The willow deity was both shocked and speechless at the Grand Emperor's generosity. This should be spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm, right? This way, the future cultivation of these people in Stone Village. Sensing the cultivation comprehensions recorded in the Tao Enlightenment Hall with Willow Deity's realm, she understood the cultivation comprehensions of the mortal realm in just a thought. These comprehensions are flawless and have a very solid foundation. With these comprehensions as the foundation, even becoming an immortal or even becoming an immortal king wouldn't be a problem. The Willow Deity was a bit dazed. No wonder the Grand Emperor dares to do this. At most, he can become an immortal king. This is already a great path to heaven. If he can become an immortal king, what's the point of talking about his cultivation future? It can't be that he wants all of them to become immortal emperors. Could this be the Tao sect's secret divine ability to nurture Tao soldiers? The Grand Emperor even took out such a trump card. Looks like he has placed all his bets on it. This dark calamity in the future is probably beyond imagination. Taking a deep breath, the Willow Deity was speechless. Willow Deity, what happened to the Tao Enlightenment Hall? The old chief led the people of Stone Village and looked at the Willow Deity, wanting to get an answer from her. This is the good fortune bestowed by the Grand Emperor. This is a good thing. Comprehend it well, and don't let down the Grand Emperor's painstaking efforts. The Willow Deity reminded them, waved at them, and turned to leave. The good fortune bestowed by the Grand Emperor? That's great. The old chief led everyone into the Tao Enlightenment Hall in high spirits. It's actually such grace. Sensing the cultivation comprehensions transmitted from the Tao Enlightenment Hall, the old chief trembled with excitement. We will never forget the Grand Emperor's kindness. Chapter 628. The Tao Comprehension Hall has already displayed its usefulness. Very good. Liu nodded and retracted his gaze. Now, I have to deal with the wall of gods and devils. He turned his head to look at the resource warehouse. At this moment, the wall of gods and devils stored in the token had already been released. Seeing this ancient stone wall that had experienced the vicissitudes of life, Liu was extremely satisfied. As expected of the immortal ancient era's training ground, those immortal kings spent quite a bit of effort. Liu smiled and gave an order to the system. System, scan the wall of gods and devils and record the structure information. The refining method of the wall of gods and devils was very worthy of Liu's reference. In the future, it would be very useful to train the people of Stone Village and even train Xiaohao and Heavenly Emperor Huang. The wall of gods and devils was actually refined like this. The wall of gods and devils could produce opponents with corresponding strength according to the realm of the trial taker. There were a total of 108 levels with true dragons, true phoenixes, Qilins, Kuanpongs, and various other tyrannical existences. Liu originally thought that to be able to refine this kind of supreme treasure that could manifest true spirits, there would definitely be a special method. He didn't expect the system's analysis answer to be completely out of Liu's expectations. I thought that the true spirits that appeared were all the effects of the formation. Turns out, that's not the case at all. The system analyzed the structure of the wall of gods and devils. Liu discovered that the true spirits that appeared in the 108 levels of the wall of gods and devils were not simulated by the formation, but rather the life imprints condensed from the true spirits. The immortal kings of the immortal ancient era really were generous. These true spirit life imprints were a bit of the true spirit's origin. This was equivalent to letting those true spirits permanently cut off a strand of their origin. The refining method of the wall of gods and devils is really simple and crude. There are no immortal king rules or laws at all. However, the harvest is similarly huge. This wall of gods and devils had 108 levels. Each level had the origin imprint of a true spirit divine beast and a peerless expert. This was the greatest harvest. True dragon, true phoenix, Qilin, Kuan Peng, lightning emperor, divine striking stone, 9 leaf sword grass, heavenly horn ant, 9 netherworlds AO, mantis, the archaic vicious 10's life imprints were actually all inside the wall of gods and devils. Although Xiaohao had obtained the Qilin steps from the demonic spirit lake, it was only a part of the true Qilin treasure technique. Compared to the true archaic vicious 10 treasure technique, it was still far inferior. On top of that, there were the 9 sons of the dragon, the blue swan, the vermilion bird, the golden crow, the jade rabbit, and many other true spirit godly beasts. Of course, what surprised Liu the most was that there was actually a black ship inscribed on the wall of gods and demons. Ruthless? Could it be that vicious origin imprint is still here? Taking a closer look, Zhang Xian realized that it was not vicious origin imprint, but a black ship. The wall of gods and demons is an item from the immortal ancient era. After vicious black ship was released from the river of time, it actually drifted all the way to the immortal ancient era, or rather, it drifted to an even more ancient era, or even to the end of time. There was vicious blood on the black ship, other than the Huang celestial emperor, who was fine after touching it. Anyone else who touched it would become a great calamity. It made sense for the black ship's imprint to be placed here. Putting aside the black ship, the other true spirit imprints would be of great use. The true spirit imprints of the archaic vicious 10 and the other true spirit imprints contain all of their personal information. Other than bloodline information, even their true spirit techniques and true spirit treasure techniques are complete. With a wave of his hand, Zhang Xian collected all of the true spirit imprints. After analyzing them, he entered them into the resource vault. This is the purest true spirit godly beast bloodline. The archaic vicious 10 are all immortal tier existences. The other true spirit godly beasts also have the potential to reach the immortal tier. Just analyzing the bloodline information alone will be of great use in the future. Apart from that, all of the archaic Vicious Ten's divine abilities and treasure techniques fell into Li Yu's hands. There were also close to 100 pure-blooded, true spirit divine abilities and treasure techniques. These are all accumulations. Li Yu smiled and nodded. Xiao Hao and Heavenly Emperor Huang have both opened 10 grotto heavens. Each grotto heaven has nurtured a true spirit. It's just enough to bring all of the archaic Vicious Ten into their grotto heavens. He had all of the archaic Vicious Ten's divine abilities and treasure techniques, as well as hundreds of pure-blooded, true spirit treasure techniques. In addition to the human immortal martial path, Tai West Sky Art, 6 paths of reincarnation Sky Art, and the supreme Gene Dan that Li Yu had given away. After that, he could use the Tao Enlightenment Hall to gain enlightenment at any time, and the martial arts practice field and the wall of gods and demons to hone his battle experience. With such a strong foundation, if Heavenly Emperor Huang still couldn't make a name for himself, he would be wasting his name. With a wave of his hand, all of the divine abilities and treasured techniques analyzed by the Wall of Gods and Demons were sent to Xiaohao's Supreme Hall Library. After the North Sea trip ends and the two of them train, the Kuan Peng treasure technique of the North Sea should be in their hands. At that time, the library can also be opened. Let the grand occasion in the library blind the eyes of the two little fellows. Li Yu chuckled. The Supreme Hall's foundation is so deep. After dealing with this, Li Yu focused his attention on the branch of the Builder Tree that he had taken out from the North Sea. The Builder Tree, which is also the World Tree. With a wave of his hand, a branch of the Builder Tree that was 100 feet long appeared in Li Yu's hand. This branch was 3 feet in diameter and more than 100 feet long. However, compared to the real Builder Tree, this branch could be said to be an insignificant small branch. The Builder Tree that reached the heavens. The Boundless World Tree was the origin of heaven and earth even in this world. It was the foundation that supported the entire world. In a world with a lower level of power, the Builder Tree, or the World Tree, could connect the myriad worlds and support a huge crystal wall system. Therefore, the Builder Tree was one of the origins of the world, representing the most fundamental laws of this world. The laws contained in the Builder Tree were a huge gain for Li Yu. Analyzing the origin laws of heaven and earth contained in the Builder Tree was a great supplement. The Builder Tree is the wood-type origin of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. It contains all the wood-type laws of this world. In addition, the Builder Tree also has the power of heaven-piercing and the laws of space. Li Yu pressed between his eyebrows, and a vast soul power rushed out. The Inkstream soul-splitting technique could split one soul into billions of souls. Countless divine souls rushed into the branch of the Builder Tree like they were covering the sky and earth. Boom! In a trance, a loud explosion rang out, and the endless primal chaos exploded. A seed of dazzling divine light erupted with boundless radiance within the chaos. A bud grew, a root grew out of the ground, a green leaf stretched out. With the passage of time, the seed grew into a gigantic tree that pierced through the heavens and earth, connecting the heavens and the earth. Time flowed, and heaven and earth changed. The radiance emitted by this tree gave birth to countless flowers, plants, and trees. In the world, all wood-type things originated from the World Tree. The world was full of vitality. After a long and immeasurable time, one day, heaven and earth shook and the void trembled. Time and space shattered and the laws disappeared. Those vast and boundless existences that could destroy heaven and earth erupted in a world-shaking battle. The entire world was shattered. The World Tree was also shattered. Phew! Li let out a long breath and slowly opened his eyes. Flowers bloomed and withered. Plants withered and died. Time and space flowed. Heaven and earth reincarnated, and all things returned to silence. Endless phenomena flowed in Li Yu's eyes. An ancient and mysterious aura spread out from Li Yu's body. Chapter 629. The rustling west wind fills the courtyard. The cold fragrance of the bud makes it difficult for the cold butterflies to come. If I become the Lotus Emperor in the future, I will repay the peach blossoms. With a long chant, Liu stretched out a finger with a smile on his face. Countless golden petals bloomed on his fingertip, filling the sky with a rain of flowers. Comprehending the laws contained in the Builder Tree has benefited me greatly. The Builder Tree was one of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Apart from the wood-type laws, there were also spatial laws. Liu used the Builder Tree as a foundation to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth and benefited greatly. In addition to the gains from the various heavenly arts and treasure techniques from before, Liu had comprehended a lot of laws of heaven and earth. After coming to this world, my goal was to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. Now, I've completed a part of this mission. With a wave of his hand, the Xianwang Qi and Yin Yang Qi lingered. The laws of the Builder Tree that he had just comprehended were broken down one by one and integrated into the origin of matter and order, becoming resources for Liu's growth. With the real Builder Tree in hand, the Builder Tree heavenly technique that I created can be sublimated again. Unfortunately, the accumulation this time is still not enough for me to break through. Breaking through to the immortal king realm was surpassing the limits of this world. With the path that Liu walked, if he wanted to break through, he could only collect the laws of the entire world. Then he could break through the laws of heaven and earth in one fell swoop and break the limits of this world. It's said that when the cultivators of this world advance to the Void Path realm, they have a chance to come into contact with the great Tao and comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. However, Liu's cultivation path was different from the cultivators of this world, and it had also surpassed the Void Path realm. Naturally, it was impossible for him to have this chance to comprehend the great Tao. Liu looked up at the sky. His gaze seemed to penetrate space and time and enter the upper realm. A strange smile appeared on his face. So, I have to give you some opportunities again. The cultivation of the immortal realm was divided into 7 cultivation levels: false god, true god, heaven god, void path, self-severing, self-release, and supreme. It was impossible for a void path realm cultivator to be born in the lower realm. Only people in the upper realm could reach this level. The 9 heavens and 10 earths, the vast upper realm's 3,000 provinces, was also one of the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The 8 regions of the lower realm were, in fact, just a cage set up by the 3,000 provinces of the upper realm. As far as I'm concerned, I'll only have the opportunity to come into contact with the great Tao of heaven and earth when I advance to the Void Tao realm. Therefore, I have to find some heavenly God realm cultivators to deliver the opportunity. A hint of a smile appeared on the corners of Liu's lips. If we're talking about where there are the most heavenly deities, then it is naturally desolate borders Imperial Pass. That is where the 9 heavens, 10 earths, and the other side fight. Heavenly deities were only ordinary soldiers. There are naturally countless heavenly deities there who can deliver opportunities. Other than that, Liu had another choice. Not long into the future, the 9 heavens, 10 earths, for the sake of dealing with the other side's pressure, increasing the realm's fighting strength, established many academies and academies. For example, the Celestial God Institute and the Sacred Institution. The entry requirement for these academies was the celestial deity realm. So, you're saying that you're following the path of the battlefield? Or the academy style? Liu smiled and shook his head. There's no need to rush. Let's move forward together and catch both sides. The more opportunities he gave out, the more opportunities he would have to comprehend the great Tao of heaven and earth. This type of thing can't be rushed. Breaking through to the immortal king realm wasn't something that could be done in a day or two. More importantly, after entering the higher realms, returning to the lower realms from the higher realms would be extremely troublesome. Even the supreme beings of the higher realms couldn't descend with their true bodies, let alone Liu, this kind of immortal king-level existence. The first time he came to the ancient chaos era, he used the system's world force to directly enter the wasteland region, which was the same as sneaking in. with Li Yu's immortal king realm strength. If he wanted to return to the lower realms after reaching the higher realms, he would have to fight against the laws of heaven and earth, and then fight until the 8 regions were destroyed and turned into ashes. There are still some loose ends for the lower realms matters. Need to wait for a few more years. A few years later, the supreme beings of the higher realms would send their projections down, slaughter all cultivators above the supreme expert realm. This matter still needed to be wrapped up. In addition, there was a primordial gate in the lower realm's 8 regions. This gate directly connected to the Realm C. Realm C. Since endless time, in the void of the entire universe, the remains of countless destroyed worlds piled up into a sea. This was the so-called Realm C. At the end of the Realm C was the source of the dark calamity, the location of the darkness immortal emperor. Liu definitely had to grasp the primordial gate in his hands. However, he still didn't have enough confidence and strength to fight with the darkness immortal emperor. Therefore, this matter had to be delayed. The true dark calamity will still be hundreds of thousands of years later. This matter doesn't need to be rushed. More importantly, I can't be careless when breaking through my own realm. I want to create my own path of cultivation. Every step must be taken steadily. After collecting his thoughts, Liu calmed down and continued to analyze and comprehend the laws of heaven and earth contained in the Builderwood. Using the Builderwood's laws as a reference, according to my own comprehension, I can try to deduce the other laws of this world. This will deepen my comprehension and truly step on my own path to becoming an immortal emperor. Comprehending by analogy was also a great Tao of cultivation. Li Yu's heart sank into his own world, while Xiao Hao and Heavenly Emperor Huang had already stepped on the path of training in the North Sea. Huge waves surged into the sky, surging violently. As soon as they arrived in the North Sea, the 2 youths who had never seen the vast sea were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. Young masters, the Kuan Peng nest in the North Sea is restricted by the laws of the Great Tao. Everyone who enters the Kuan Peng nest can only display the strength of the spirit transformation realm. After landing on the seaside, Qiongqi said to Xiao Hao and Heavenly Emperor Huang, "Young masters, the Grand Supreme Patriarch has ordered that the sky-swallowing sparrow and I will escort you to the Kuan Peng nest. We can't accompany you into the Kuan Peng nest. The Grand Supreme Patriarch ordered the 2 of us to come here so that we can gain experience. If you follow us, what is the point of gaining experience? Naturally, we can't let you in." Xiao Hao smiled and nodded. Why should we be afraid of a battle between spirit transformation realm cultivators? Thank you for your understanding, young masters. In fact, Qiongqi and the sky-swallowing sparrow were a little regretful that they couldn't fight side by side with the 2 young masters, because this was another opportunity to get closer to them. However, there was still a long time in the future, and there were plenty of opportunities to perform, so they weren't in a hurry. Ha ha! Nixianxi, it's easy for your aunt to misunderstand you if you keep chasing after your uncle like this. It's rare for this old man to be so enthusiastic about you. At this moment, a wretched and lascivious laugh sounded behind them. Xiao Hao and Heavenly Emperor Huang hurriedly looked back and saw a strange bird without a single feather on its body. It screeched all the way and whistled through the air. Behind this strange hairless bird, a figure whistled and chased after it. It was a young girl wearing a purple robe, and her beauty was unparalleled. "Aya, niece." Although this old man hid in your skirt and ran out of the God of Heaven mountain. However, you haven't worn that skirt before, have you? That's nothing, right? Even if there's underwear under the skirt or something. With this old man's character, how could I peek? The strange bird without feathers screeched and flapped its bare wings as it fled in a sorry state. Shameless. When a young girl heard the strange bird's words, she was so angry that her eyebrows were raised. She was unable to restrain her anger. "Kong Chioji, you bastard. That girl seems to be the one we saw in the 100-herb garden?" At this moment, little Shirtu discovered that the young girl who chased after them was the only girl in the 100-herb garden who had not been hit by a brick by little Shirtu. "She's from the God of Heaven mountain." It seems that this trip to the North Sea will be very lively. Xiao Hao chuckled and crossed his arms, planning to watch the show. Two little brothers, save me. This evil woman plucked out all my feathers and wants to catch me and eat me. She's simply vicious to the extreme. Please lend a helping hand. When a strange bird without feathers saw Xiao Hao and little Shirtu, it hurriedly turned and rushed over, calling for help. She plucked out your feathers? And wants to eat you? Little Shirtu blinked his eyes with a face full of shock and anger. It seemed that he hated such a vicious method very much. Yes, that's right. The strange bird without feathers felt that it had found its savior and hurriedly landed beside the two of them. This is too outrageous. Little Shirtu was unable to restrain his anger. How can you pluck out feathers? Just paste it with fragrant paste and make it into beggar's chicken. That's delicious. How can you waste natural resources so recklessly? The strange bird without feathers froze. It seemed that the situation was not right. Chapter 630. So it's Tai Hao and Xiao Hao. The purple-clothed girl hurriedly stepped forward and bowed when she saw the two people in front of her. Yunshi greets the two young masters. In the 100-break mountain mystic realm, this celestial clan girl from the god of Heaven Mountain had been frightened by Little Stone's brick in the herb garden. However, Xiao Hao and Tai Hao had killed the Beast King and saved everyone. The celestial clan girl had also received favors from the two of them. Aha, so you're family. The hairless bald bird laughed dryly and said, Niece, is this your lover? Both of them? Niece, you're wrong. The most important thing for a woman is to be loyal. You're two-timing. Smack. Before the hairless bald bird could finish speaking, Qiongqi, who had transformed into a lion cub, pounced on the bald bird and pressed it to the ground with its paw. Young master, this guy is a 5-color peacock, and a pure-blooded one. It seems that there was a problem with its cultivation, and it fell from the venerable realm. Although it's not strong enough, its meat is still very nutritious. Let's kill it and eat it. The sky-swallowing sparrow landed beside the hairless bald bird and lifted it up with its paw. It began to talk about it with its bright eyes, as if it was looking for a place to place its knife. Qiongqi, the sky-swallowing sparrow. At this moment, the hairless bald bird also discovered the true nature of the lion cub and the little peacock, and it immediately screamed in horror. This is unreasonable. Do you have to be so deceitful? You two pure-blooded venerable realm true spirits have transformed into such appearances to deceive people. Young masters, this guy is really my elder. She chuckled helplessly. Please be magnanimous and don't eat it. You're really eating it? Are you kidding me? I'm a pure-blooded. The old peacock was shocked when he heard this. Someone was really eating pure-blooded true spirits. The old spiders of the demonic spirit lake were roasted and eaten by the young master. What's the point of eating another peacock? Qiongqi grinned, and his mouth full of sharp teeth looked very sinister. Oh my God, that's too cruel. So terrifying. The old peacock trembled, and his neck felt cold. These two little guys looked handsome, but he didn't expect them to be so savage. Just kidding. What a joke. How can you really eat it? Little Shirtu smiled and shook his head. He waved his hand at Qiongqi, indicating for it to let go of the bald bird. Don't worry, I won't eat it. I don't know how to eat. Old Peacock got up from the ground, and his mouth twitched. You don't know how to eat? Can't you wipe off your saliva before saying that? Young masters, are you going to the roc's nest? It was rumored that when the Kuan Peng's nest opened, there would be the inheritance of the Kuan Peng's precious techniques inside. The various sects and sacred grounds have already made their move. Yunshi asked Xiao Hao with a smile. Indeed. Xiao Hao nodded. Does the god of Heaven Mountain plan to go as well? Just the two of you? Yunshi glanced at the featherless old peacock and smiled awkwardly. We joined forces to explore the Kuanping's nest, but I chased it all the way here. The others are still behind. Oh, since that's the case, we'll take our leave first. Goodbye. Xiao Hao nodded to Yunshi, then turned around and climbed onto Qiongqi's back. He spread his wings and soared into the sky. Qiongqi and the sky-swallowing sparrow carried the two of them and sped away. Oh my God, a pure-blooded, true spirit of the venerable realm is only a mount? Who the hell are these two people? The featherless old peacock was dumbfounded. Tai Hao and Xiao Hao, two peerless talents, boundless strength, and unimaginable background. They are known as people who must not be provoked. Yin, she sighed. Once upon a time, she was also a peerless genius, but compared to these two people, the difference was like a firefly compared to the sun. The sea is so magnificent. Little Stone stood on the back of the sky-swallowing sparrow and looked at the vast sea. He couldn't help but exclaim, "Boom!" At this moment, huge waves rose from the sea below. A silver shark as huge as a mountain broke through the waves and set off endless waves. "Stop!" The huge silver shark opened its huge mouth and roared at the sky. "I'm here to seal off the North Sea under the order of Lord Dragon. No one is allowed to enter. Anyone who violates this order will be killed without mercy." Huh? Lord Dragon? Sealing off the North Sea? Are you trying to monopolize the Kunping's nest? How dare you? Little Stone raised his eyebrows. "Get out of the way. Otherwise, the shark's fin is good. It can be used to make porridge. You're courting death." The silver shark roared furiously, opened its huge mouth full of sharp teeth, and swallowed the two humans and two beasts. "Trash like you can't even tell the strength of your opponent, yet you dare to attack. You're really courting death." The sky-swallowing sparrow opened its mouth and spat out a ray of black light. With just one spin, the huge silver shark was turned into a pile of ashes. It was completely dead. "My shark's fin." Little Stone blinked his eyes and roared gloomily. "Huh?" The sky-swallowing sparrow froze. "How could I forget about this? Now, it's more of a help. Stop fooling around. Let's go quickly." Xiao Hao waved his hand. The sky-swallowing sparrow felt as if it had been granted amnesty. It quickly spread its wings and flew away. Along the way, all kinds of ferocious sea beasts appeared on the vast sea. However, after the sky-swallowing sparrow and Xiongqi released their auras, none of the sea beasts came to seek death. Not long after, a huge cliff broke out of the sea and stood tall in the distance. On the cliff, there was a huge bird's nest. Even though there was no vast divine radiance or shocking phenomenon, it faintly revealed a powerful aura that could intimidate the heavens and reign over the world. However, the Kunping's nest didn't attract their attention. What really moved them was the situation in the sea near the Kunping's nest. "Kill!" The sound of killing shook the sky. The entire sea was dyed red. Countless forces and races were fighting near the Kunping's nest. Blood flowed like a river. Boom! A group of huge, silver-scaled sharks, like an endless silver land, swept out with a whistling sound. Crack! A group of lightning hounds rose into the sky. Lightning fell from the sky like rain and fiercely bombarded the group of silver-scale sharks, creating a sea of lightning. The group of silver-scale sharks was instantly cleared out. Roar! A huge gray dragon roared and broke out of the water. With a swipe of its claws, it directly flattened a group of lightning hounds. Roar! A huge golden hoe roared at the sky. The mighty sound wave swept across the world. Under the impact of the sound wave, everything in front of it exploded. Blood dyed the entire sea red. Even venerable realm powerhouses are fighting? So tragic? The bloody battle ahead surprised Little Stone. Even venerable realm powerhouses were involved. The temptation of the Kunping's nest was too terrifying. Young masters, this is the periphery of the Kunping's nest. They can still exert the strength of venerable realm powerhouses. Once they enter the nest, their strength can't exceed the spirit transformation realm due to the suppression of the Kunping's array. The sky-swallowing sparrow hurriedly explained. However, you two young masters need to be careful. The temptation of the Kunping's treasured skill is too great. These people are bloodthirsty. Xiongqi reminded them in a low voice. I know. Xiao Hao nodded and reached out to press the long saber at his waist. We travel the world by relying on strength. Didn't the ancestor ask us to come here to train us? Chapter 631. Since it's an experience, we'll have to go by ourselves. Little Stone looked at Xiongqi and the sky-swallowing sparrow. You guys stay here. We'll walk the rest of the way by ourselves. Even if they were facing a venerable at his peak, they still had some trump cards. They were still far from the Kuan Peng's nest, but this path was suitable for them to train. Baxia and Tao Dai are both sons of the dragon, so were born with the ability to control water. It's okay for us to be in the ocean. Xiaohao jumped down from Qiongqi's back, and a watery light surged under his feet. He rode on a wave and stood on top of the wave. Controlling the wind is fine too. The wind whistled. Little Stone's figure stayed close to the water and rode the wind. Let's go. Let's go meet the heroes. The two swept across the water and rushed toward the Kuan Peng's nest. Boom! A huge flood dragon fell from the sky and smashed into the water in front of them, creating huge waves. The flood dragon's body was covered with wounds. Even its bones were exposed from the huge wounds. Red blood dyed the water red. It was as if the flood dragon had been struck down from the sky. TSK. So miserable. Seeing the flood dragon's miserable state, Little Stone shook his head and sighed. He even showed sympathy on his face. Bastard. Despicable human. Go to hell. It seemed that Little Stone's sympathy made the flood dragon lose face. It roared in anger and shame. The flood dragon rose into the air, waved its claws, and slapped at Little Stone. In the vast wilderness, whether on land or in the sea, the human race was not considered a strong race. Therefore, the flood dragon looked down on Xiaohao and Little Stone. Huh, you're angry at me after being beaten up? You want to regain your confidence from me? What good idea. Little Shirtu almost laughed out loud. Facing the flood dragon's claw, he raised his hand, clenched his fist, and punched out. Boom! A huge mountain appeared on his fist and slammed into the flood dragon's body, creating a loud noise. Puff! Blood splattered and scales scattered. The flood dragon screamed as it was hit a few hundred feet away and smashed into the water. You two human brats, you're dead meat. You dare to provoke the flood dragon clan in the Northern Sea? You won't be able to leave the Northern Sea. The flood dragon struggled to get out of the water. Its eyes were filled with endless viciousness as it roared towards the sky. Oh! He let out a long roar, calling for help from his fellow clansmen. A moment later, the huge waves surged, and two gray-scaled giant flood dragons broke out of the water. Two human brats actually dared to injure members of my flood dragon clan? You are courting death. Without saying a word, two flood dragons broke out of the water and charged at Xiaohao and Little Shirtu with bared fangs and claws. Haha, this is training. Little Shirtu laughed out loud. A gust of wind burst out from under his feet. His figure soared into the sky and collided with the flood dragon. Then let's kill them. Xiaohao also leaped up, raised his fist, and charged towards the flood dragon in front of him, moving mountains, breaking peaks. His fist, which was as heavy as a mountain, turned into a towering mountain and smashed towards the flood dragon. Boom! A loud sound rang out. The two of them punched each of them and sent the two flood dragons flying. The vast and boundless power was unstoppable. Don't be so arrogant. After all, the North Sea was the territory of the Sea Clan. Not to mention anything else, it had a lot of people. In a moment, countless sea beasts and a group of flood dragons broke out of the water and charged towards the two of them. Ha ha ha! Awesome! Little Shirtu laughed out loud. His aura was like a rainbow as he punched and kicked all the way. He did not use any treasured skills and directly used his martial arts fist techniques. No one could stop him. Let's fight! Xiaohao also shouted heroically and also attacked with his martial arts fist techniques. With their strong bodies, the power of the human immortal martial arts fist techniques was also boundless. The two of them swept away the sea beasts and flood dragons that blocked their way and charged towards the Kuan Peng's nest with unstoppable momentum. Boom! In the sea in front of them, an incomparably hot and golden stream of fire rushed out like a volcanic eruption. The monstrous flames soared into the sky like a huge wave. This is... Xiaohao and Little Shirtu stopped in their tracks and looked at the tide of flames with surprise. The monstrous flames turned out to be a school of densely packed fish that were emitting golden flames all over their bodies. Firefish. The school of firefish swept out like lava, as if the sea was about to be burned dry. It also seemed like water and fire were inseparable. Fire in the water, controlling fire like water. Firefish are indeed extraordinary. Legend had it that in ancient times, a firefish became a god and competed with the sea god for supremacy. In the end, the firefish was defeated and the entire firefish clan went into seclusion. Now that the Kuanpong's nest was opened, even a strange and powerful clan like the firefish appeared again. It's you remnants. Kill. After the firefish appeared, the flood dragons, sea beasts, and even the sea god clan of the North Sea rushed towards the firefish. No one cared about Xiaohao and little Shirtu at all. The glory of our ancestors will be reborn in my hands. Amidst the raging flames, a figure wearing red armor and holding a spear appeared. His entire body was covered in raging flames. Kill. The firefish and the sea beasts fought fiercely. The scene was chaotic. This is simply a messy fight. Looking up, all kinds of clans and forces were fighting in a mess near the Kuanpong's nest. Anyway, it's an experience. Then let's fight. Who cares who they are? Xiaohao and little Shirtu laughed loudly. They didn't care who was in front of them or what race they were. They pushed forward and punched anyone who blocked their way. Where did these bastards come from? Damn human brats. How dare they? The two of them fought fiercely, causing all the forces to fly into a rage. The two of them didn't follow the rules at all. They didn't even ask about the origin of the people they saw. This immediately angered everyone. Let's take care of these two bastards first. Suddenly, some of the clans and forces that were originally enemies joined forces to besiege the two of them. In the sea area near the Kuanpong's nest, this kind of chaotic fight could be seen everywhere. Awesome. Awesome. After breaking through the battle formation, the two of them stepped onto the cliff where the Kuanpong's nest was located and landed on the land. Seeing that the two of them had beaten up all kinds of sea beasts along the way, they immediately laughed out loud. The Kuanpong's nest was about to open, and the land near the nest was the best location. Those who could land on the land and occupy a place were either big forces or powerful. They were not to be trifled with. However, the place where little Shirtu and Xiaohao were standing was an open space. Other than the two of them, there was no one else here. Get lost. A big man in golden armor, holding a giant axe, pointed at Xiaohao and little Shirtu and shouted loudly, "My master is passing by. You can't stay here. Get lost." Your master? Little Shirtu looked at the big man with a smile and shook his head. Who does he think he is? You're courting death. The big man in golden armor roared angrily. He waved his axe and chopped at little Shirtu. Get lost. Before little Shirtu could do anything, Xiaohao slapped the big man in golden armor and sent him flying. Hiss, the sea god's personal guard, the whale warrior, was sent flying by a casual slap. These two young men are so strong. So what if they are strong? They are in trouble. The son of the sea god is nearby. In this place, the son of the sea god is invincible. Yes, the restriction is going to break out soon. Everyone's strength will be reduced to the spirit transformation realm. The son of the sea god is invincible in the spirit transformation realm. The people nearby who saw this scene discussed animatedly. They looked at Xiaohao and little Shirtu with a hint of schadenfreude. Invincible in the spirit transformation realm? Did you ask me? Little Shirtu sneered and didn't care at all. Chapter 632. Buzz. At this moment, a rumble came from the Kuanpong's nest. An invisible ripple spread out and swept across the entire area. Under this ripple, the invisible power of law swept away all the power beyond the spirit transformation realm. No one, no secret treasure, no divine artifact could unleash power beyond the spirit transformation realm. When this ripple appeared, the battles everywhere became even more intense. The sovereigns had fallen to the spirit transformation realm and lost their high and mighty deterrence. the battles became even more intense. It's here again. The distance between them is getting closer and closer. The Kuan Peng's nest formation is truly terrifying. Even the sovereigns fell to the spirit transformation realm. Even the sovereigns aren't invincible in the spirit transformation realm. These sovereigns aren't in their true bodies. It should be a spiritual body. Otherwise, their true bodies would be in danger. Near the Kuan Peng's nest, the forces that no one dared to provoke were gloating. Who dares to humiliate my sea god clan? A shocking roar sounded and a vast amount of water rushed into the sky. A figure wearing armor and holding a halberd floated in the air like a god. He looked around disdainfully with monstrous power. The son of the sea god is here. Those two brats are in trouble. Seeing this figure, the nearby people exclaimed, "Invincible in the spirit transformation realm. The son of the sea god is too powerful." "Master, it's those two brats." Behind this person, the golden armored man who was slapped away by Xiaohao pointed at Xiaohao and Little Stone and shouted, "Master, these two brats are very arrogant and disrespectful to you." "Two human brats?" The son of the sea god glanced at the two of them. His blue eyes flashed coldly. "How dare you? I want to see how capable you are. I heard that you're invincible in the spirit transformation realm." Little Stone took a step forward and looked at the son of the sea god. He curled his lips in disdain. "If you're invincible in the spirit transformation realm, then what am I? You're courting death." The son of the sea god roared and slashed out with the halberd in his hand. Sea god's horn. The long halberd pierced through the air, and Tianshui light burst forth. In the endless water light, the silhouettes of various sea beasts appeared. It was like an army of sea beasts that blotted out the sky. Each and every one of the sea beasts looked so lifelike, as if they were real sea beasts and not manifestations of spiritual power. Dharma has an original soul. The son of the sea god is indeed unrivaled in the spirit transformation realm. He has actually reached such a legendary realm. This move made the spectators gasp in amazement. This is called having an original soul. Little Shirtu curled his lips in disdain and said, "I've learned how to do this a long time ago." Even as he spoke, his hands did not stop moving. Little Shirtu raised his hand and clenched his fist. Divine light filled the sky. Divine earth force. The punch was no longer a mountain. Instead, it took the form of a massive dragon, Baxia. "Eh-oh!" Dragon's son Baxia roared. His body was like a gigantic mountain as he charged forward. Boom! The sea beast that filled the sky instantly vanished. Dragon's son Baxia's claw landed on the son of the sea god's chest. With a bang, the son of the sea god was sent flying far away like a rubber ball. He's actually so strong. Both of them have an original soul, and the one that manifested is Baxia's true soul. Isn't this too terrifying? When did such a terrifying fellow appear? Where did these two people come from? They had defeated the son of the sea god, who was said to be unrivaled in the spirit transformation realm, with one strike. Such monstrous divine power shocked the surrounding people. So it's the two of them. That's not strange. There were also some forces from the vast wilderness near the Kuan Peng nest. These people quickly recognized the two of them. So it's Tai Hao and Xiao Hao. They are indeed unrivaled. Tai Hao and Xiao Hao, are they the geniuses of the vast wilderness? The forces from the sea did not know much about the situation on the mainland. After hearing the introduction of the mainland forces, they finally understood how terrifying these two were. After establishing their might with one strike, no one dared to provoke them. No one is looking for trouble. There are no more fights to fight. Little Stone seemed to be a little unsatisfied as he muttered gloomily. There's no hurry. When the Kuan Peng nest opens, there will be plenty of opportunities to fight. Xiao Hao chuckled. The current battle looked extremely tragic with casualties. In fact, they were all small fries. The real experts had not made a move yet. Even if there were venerables fighting outside, it was a battle caused by personal grievances. Such situations were rare. Time slowly passed as they waited. Soon, the entire Kuan Peng nest burst into endless light. Boom! With an earth-shattering roar, a huge hole appeared on the cliff where the Kuin Pung nest was located. At the entrance of the cave, a vast and boundless sea appeared in front of everyone. It turns out that the Kuin Pung nest is in another sea. Seeing the opening of the cave, everyone understood that the real nest of the Kuin Pung was not on this cliff, but somewhere else. Let's go. Let's go. As soon as the lair was opened, everyone rushed toward the huge hole in the air. We should also set off. Xiao Hao and Little Stone also followed the crowd and rushed into the hole. After passing through a light screen, everyone arrived at a vast sea. In this part of the sea, on an island, there was a huge and splendid lair. It stood tall like a huge city. That's the Kuin Pung nest. Let's go. Let's go. Seeing that the Kuin Pung nest was right in front of them, countless people rushed toward the nest. Xiao Hao and Little Stone were no exception. They also rushed toward the Kuin Pung nest. On the island, there was a huge bluestone road that led directly to the Kuin Pung nest. However, on the nest, the gate that looked like a city gate was tightly shut. Is it not time to open it yet? How can we go in? Many of the cultivators who were blocking the door started to feel anxious. Legend has it that only a genius with 10 grotto heavens can open the gate. 10 grotto heavens is a myth. How can there be such a person? There's no need for 10 grotto heavens. The Kuin Peng's relics can also open the gate of the nest. Those great sects and sacred grounds must be prepared. Everyone was discussing. For the time being, they could only wait outside the gate. Xiao Hao, over there. Little Stone and Xiao Hao did not rush to the gate of the Kuin Pung nest. Instead, they stopped outside. At this time, Little Stone pointed at an island next to him. He pointed at the river on the island and shouted in surprise. What's wrong? Xiao Hao looked in the direction that Little Stone pointed at. He only saw a shining river and did not find anything strange. I think I saw a figure. It's so strange. Little Stone frowned and jumped up. I'll go and take a look. Hey, wait for me. Xiao Hao also followed Little Stone and flew to the island next to him. This is the paper boat? Little Stone stood by the river and picked up a paper boat. He saw the bloodstains in the paper boat and also the line of words. I'm the only one left. At this moment, Little Shirtu seemed to see a lonely figure in white folding a paper boat. Then, he bit his finger and wrote down a line of words. Then, he released the paper boat in his hand. As if it had floated out from the end of time, the paper boat floated through countless time and space until it floated into the river and floated to Little Stone's side. What is this thing? Little Stone was puzzled. He threw the paper boat back into the river. Chapter 633. It's just a paper boat. Don't worry about it. Xiao Hao looked at the paper boat in the river and didn't care about it. He pulled Little Stone and returned to the island where the Kuin Peng's nest was. The door hasn't been opened yet. The two returned to the front of the Kuin Peng's nest and found that the door was still closed. Didn't they say that only 10 caves could open it? Since no one has opened it, let's open it. Little Stone turned to look at Xiao Hao with a strange look in his eyes. Xiao Hao, I plan to fight with everyone who enters the Kuin Peng's nest. What do you think? You have this idea? Xiao Hao raised his eyebrows and a sense of pride rose in his heart. Fight all over the world? We could try. Okay. Little Stone laughed and walked to the door of the Kuin Peng's nest. That's Tai Hao and Xiao Hao. What are they doing? Do they want to open the door in advance? Do they also have the Kuin Peng's relics? Seeing Xiao Hao and Little Stone rushing to the door of the nest, the people waiting nearby all looked over in surprise. A few sects that have the Kuin Peng's relics are waiting for the right time to open the door when the formation is at its weakest. This is to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Could it be that the Kuin Peng's relics in Tai Hao and Xiao Hao's hands are stronger than those of the other sects? Opening the door of the nest was a good thing. Naturally, no one had stopped them. Everyone watched from the side. Is this the Kuin Peng's nest? It looks like a huge city. Little Stone reached out and pressed on the door of the Kuin Peng's nest. He flicked his fingers, and the sound of metal hitting metal came from the ancient wooden door. Wow, it's so hard. This is golden polonio wood. It's as hard as diamond and as heavy as a mountain. As expected of the Kuin Peng's nest. Even the door is so extraordinary. Xiaohao looked at the door and was full of admiration. Can the 10 caves open the door of the nest? Xiaohao, let me try first. If it doesn't work, you can think of another way. Little Stone nodded at Xiaohao. He wanted to try the method of opening the door of the 10 caves. It's good to try. Xiaohao got a hint from the Supreme Hall. He could directly use the power of the Supreme Palace to break the formation on the door and open the door. Since little Shirtu wants to try, then let him try. I'm going to make a move. Little Shirtu let out a loud yell. The blood and qi in his body boiled, and the brilliant light of blood and qi rushed out from the top of his head like a golden rainbow that connected the heavens and the earth. What are you trying to do? It seems that Tai Hao intends to use brute force. He wants to break the gate of the Kuan Peng's nest? Are you kidding me? Not to mention that Tai Hao was only at the spirit transformation realm. Even a venerable wouldn't be able to open the door to the lair. Tai Hao's actions are too reckless. Young success, insufferably arrogant. He's so arrogant after obtaining such fame at such a young age. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Seeing Little Stone's actions, the people around him shook their heads. Don't know the immensity of heaven and earth? Little Shirtu also heard these discussions and inwardly snorted coldly. No matter how high the sky is, it can't cover my eyes. No matter how thick the ground is, it can't stop my footsteps. Boom! He heavily stomped on the ground, and the boundless power caused the ground to rumble. The ground split open, and the blue stone shattered. The entire ground shook violently. Hiss! How much strength does he have? Seeing the power of Little Stone stomp, the people around him sucked in a breath of cold air. However, what was even more shocking was yet to come. Open for me. Little Stone leaped into the air and roared. His body emitted a mighty divine light. The golden light that filled the sky was like a vast ocean that illuminated the heavens and earth. One after another, dazzling halos rose from the ocean of golden splendor like blazing suns and surrounded Little Shitta's body. 10 halos surrounded him like 10 suns in the sky. Their radiance was boundless and dazzling. 10 heavenly abodes. 10 heavenly abodes actually exist? The legend is right in front of us. Heavens, what kind of terrifying and peerless talent is this? Seeing the 10 suns in the sky, the surrounding people were so shocked that they were tongue-tied. They were completely stunned. Boom! 10 suns in the sky, illuminating the heavens and earth. Little Stone released a monstrous divine aura. He mobilized all the power of the 10 heavenly abodes and fiercely smashed his fist on the lair's door, causing a shocking explosion. As if the sun had exploded, the sky was filled with dazzling light, causing people to be blinded. How is it? How is it? Is it open? Even though the light was blinding, everyone opened their eyes wide and stared at the door. When the light in the sky gradually dissipated, the situation at the entrance of the Kuan Peng's lair was revealed to everyone. Little Stone was still in his punching posture, but the door was still tightly shut. Sigh, it failed. Even the 10 heavenly abodes can't open the door. Seeing that the door was still tightly shut, everyone shook their heads and sighed. The legend of the 10 heavenly abodes had appeared, but it had come to an end. What a pity. Buzz, at this moment, the door of the lair suddenly exploded with a roar. Amidst the flowing light, the door was slowly opening. It's open. It's open. It's open. 10 heavenly abodes. As expected of a legend. It's really powerful. Seeing that the door of the Kuan Peng's lair had opened, everyone shouted in joy. Their eyes were burning with passion. The Kuan Peng's lair had countless secret treasures, countless godly items, and even the inheritance of the Kuan Peng's treasure techniques. This was a peerless opportunity. With such an opportunity in front of them, who wouldn't be tempted? Ha! Young Master Tai Hao is indeed a hero. Thank you, young Master Tai Hao, for opening the door for us. After the door was opened, how could the people outside hold back? After a few pleasantries, the crowd swarmed toward the door. Clang! A sword whistled through the sky. Little Stone pulled out the three-spirit sword. The dragon's tooth, the phoenix's beak, and the unicorn's horn appeared. A mighty force rushed out like a raging tide, blocking the path in front of everyone. Everyone stopped in their tracks and looked at Xiao Hao and Little Stone, who were blocking the door with shock and anger. You two, what is the meaning of this? Everyone's face was cold, and their hands were already holding onto their weapons. Even if Tai Hao and Xiao Hao had a powerful background, with such a peerless opportunity in front of them, who would dare to stop them? That would be irreconcilable. If it was something else, they might be afraid of the power behind the two and not dare to do anything. However, with such a peerless opportunity in front of them, if they were still afraid, what was the point of cultivating? What was the point of cultivating? Just go home and take care of your child. Nothing. Xiao Hao held two long sabers and stood beside Little Stone with a smile. He held out his saber and pointed at everyone present. We opened the door. If you want to go in, you have to do it according to our conditions. What conditions? If it could be explained, no one was willing to offend the terrifying background behind the two of them. The conditions are simple. Little Stone held the sword in his hand and gently flicked the blade. If you defeat us, you can go in. Young masters, do you want to monopolize the Kunping's nest? If that's the case, then we can only fight. So what if you're Tai Hao? So what if you're Xiao Hao? Stopping people from achieving their Dao and robbing them of their opportunities, this hatred is irreconcilable. Kill. Battle cries shook the sky. The sky was full of precious techniques and countless weapons. Like a storm, they smashed towards the two of them as if they were going to drown them. Ha ha! Ancestral Master, this is our trial. The two young men drew their swords and challenged everyone. Damn, they're going to play so big. Liu saw this scene and was speechless for a long time. Should I say, as expected of Huang Tian Emperor? Chapter 634. Blood spurted out. The two of them were injured as soon as they started fighting. The countless rune treasure techniques that covered the sky and the earth were tens of thousands of spells. Even if they were made of iron, they would have been crushed. There were countless races and forces in the vast wilderness. There were at least 80,000 people who came to the Kunpeng's lair to fight for the treasure. Even if Xiao Hao and Lin Yun were stronger, it was impossible for them not to be injured by the overwhelming number of spells. More importantly, those who participated in the treasure hunt were not ordinary people. Their rune treasure techniques were not ordinary. In the treasure hunt in the North Sea, there were only a few ancient human kingdoms in the Waste Realm. There was only one venerable realm Renwang in the capital city, so they could not travel easily. Almost all of the other sacred mountains, sacred grounds, pure-blooded immortal spirits, and archaic remains were involved. Of course, most of them were from the North Sea's Oceanic clan. These immortal spirit treasure techniques and archaic remains were not ordinary spells. They were very powerful. Boom! Mighty chi and blood surged. Their strong physiques gave the two of them a terrifying recovery ability. The injuries on their bodies were healed in a short time. Xiao Hao had the sacred body of the ancients, and Little Rock was the founder of the sacred body of the ancients. Their physiques were unimaginably strong. Kill. Boom. Swords and spears were like a forest, and spells were like rain. No matter how strong their recovery ability was, they could not withstand the continuous attacks. They had just recovered from their injuries when they were attacked again. Before they could recover, they were severely injured. Soon, the two of them were covered in blood and bruises. They could not recover anymore. They can't hold on any longer. Come on, kill them. The crowd roared furiously. Their eyes were bloodshot from the killing. They all used their full strength to attack, trying to kill the two of them. Xiao Hao, we seem to have gone too far. Little Shidu's entire body was soaked in blood. His body was covered with wounds. Some of them were deep enough to see his bones, while others were pierced by spears. However, most of them were wounds caused by spells such as fire, lightning, and ice. A sword is sharpened by grinding. Without going through arduous training, how could one grow? Don't worry, we won't die. Xiao Hao swung his sword and blocked a giant axe that was coming down on his head. However, His arm was pierced by an arrow. Then let's continue. Little Stone slashed out with his sword, and the shadow of a dragon's tooth broke through the air. Under the cover of the formation of the Kuin-Peng's nest, the divine artifacts on their bodies were also reduced to the spirit transformation realm. Although it still had the essence of a divine artifact, it couldn't unleash the power of a divine artifact. However, wasn't this just training? The injuries on his body were getting more and more serious. The wounds were so deep that his bones could be seen. His flesh was charred. There were barely any intact pieces of flesh on his body. Boom! At this moment, boundless radiance erupted from their bodies. It was as if two blazing suns had broken through the sky. The divine radiance was vast and mighty, illuminating the heaven and earth. A vast and boundless life force surged into his body, and his extremely heavy injuries were all healed in the blink of an eye. This is Jindan. Ha ha! The ancestral master's plan was flawless. This medicinal pill is for us to gain experience. Their injuries were instantly healed. The two of them were overjoyed, and their fighting spirit was even higher. What's going on? The two of them were on the verge of collapse, and were about to be defeated. In the blink of an eye, they had all recovered. They must have used the most precious divine medicine. There can't be a lot of these things. If they use up all their divine medicine, they will die sooner or later. Continue to fight. The earth-shattering spells, the crisscrossing swords, were endless and endless. A great battle was fought until the sky turned dark, until the sun and moon lost their light, until it was hopeless. Yes, it was hopeless. Time and time again, these two fellows were beaten to the brink of death, and then, in the blink of an eye, they were alive and kicking again. Just how many divine medicines are there? Why can't they be used up? Even so, this battle was still going on, and it had to continue. The appearance of the Kuin-Peng's nest, the inheritance of the Kuin-Peng's treasured techniques, this kind of exceptional opportunity, no one would let it go. We'll battle. No matter how many divine medicines they have, they will be exhausted to death. Close to 100,000 cultivators were blocked outside the door, unable to move an inch. This was really unimaginable. The key problem was that there were too many people outside, and only a small portion of them could really attack the two of them. In this way, the wheel battle was inevitable. Roar! Hundreds of dragons rushed towards the door, and then were destroyed. Boom! Flames engulfed the sky, and fire fishes rushed towards the door like a tide. In a moment, they became dead fishes on the ground. This battle lasted for half a month. Then there was no one left. Close to 100,000 cultivators gathered at the Kuin-Peng's nest and attacked continuously. After half a month, they still couldn't break through the door guarded by the two of them. In the end, no one dared to move forward. They drew their swords and looked around, and the crowd was helpless. The two of them fought against 100,000 cultivators, and the crowd was terrified. This kind of monstrous power was dominating the world. The battle is over. Little Stone leaned on his long sword and let out a long breath. After a series of battles, he had been on the brink of death countless times. Although under the effect of the supreme Jindan, he didn't have any injuries on his body, and after his body was reconstructed countless times, he became even more terrifying and powerful. But his spirit was very tired. They probably can't fight anymore, although there were still many people outside, and the mountains were filled with people, but no one moved forward. In front of the door, blood flowed like a river, and corpses were everywhere. There were all kinds of archaic descendants, and the most common were naturally sea beasts. After all, the North Sea was the territory of the sea race, and most of the sea beasts came. In addition, some sacred mountains and holy lands in the inland also participated. As for the human race, there were almost no humans. Although there were many humans in the great wilderness, they were in a weak position. An ancient country only had one human emperor in the venerable realm. If something happened to the human emperor, the ancient country would be destroyed. Therefore, there was no human emperor leading a team to fight for treasures in the North Sea Kuin-Peng's nest. Except for some families that relied on the sacred mountains and holy lands, There weren't many humans in the Kuan-Peng's nest at this moment. And these sacred mountains and holy lands in the inland knew very well how terrifying Tai-Hao and Xiao-Hao were, so they didn't show themselves. So many fish and prawns? Xiao-Hao, take some back and let the family have a taste. They haven't eaten seafood yet. There were corpses in front of them, and most of them were sea beasts, such as fish, prawns, turtles, and so on. Little Stone's old habit acted up again, and his gluttonous nature was exposed again. As expected, they're extremely ferocious. The corners of the mouths of the people outside, who were already terrified by the slaughter, twitched for a while when they heard Little Stone's words. That, young masters. At this moment, an elder from the inland sacred mountain cupped his hands toward Xiao-Hao and Little Stone from afar. Young masters, you are so powerful that you are invincible in the world. You can be called peerless supreme beings. We admire you very much. The two people's invincible power frightened everyone, and there was no way to continue the battle. Young masters, you must have done this to train yourselves, so you've fought against all the heroes in the world alone. Now that the battle has come to this point, it should be over. The elder cupped his hands toward the two people. Young masters, you are invincible in the world, and we dare not compete with you. However, we can't miss the opportunity in the Kuan-Peng's nest. I have a suggestion. Young masters, you can choose one of the treasures in the Kuan-Peng's nest first, and the rest will be divided by us. What do you think? Okay, actually, we don't like the things in the Kuan-Peng's nest. You can go and take them yourselves. Little Stone secretly winked at Xiao-Hao, and then waved his hand indifferently and walked away leisurely. You don't want it? Don't like it? When the two people had gone far away, left the island, and walked to the sea surface, the people still hadn't come back to their senses. After fighting for half a month and countless people had died, it turned out that they didn't like it and just fought for fun. Was there any justice in this world? Chapter 635. What are you planning this time? The two left the island and walked to the surface of the sea. Xiao-Hao turned his head and asked Stone. Stone smiled weirdly. When I opened the door, I got the message that the Kuan-Peng left on the door. To get the real Kuan-Peng treasured skill, we have to walk the Kuan-Peng's path of cultivation. Pointing at the sea beneath his feet, Shurtu continued. At the bottom of the sea, there are 3 mysterious places: Scorching Sun Cave, Freezing Abyss, and Fallen Star Valley. These are the places where the Kuan-Peng refined his body. The places where the Kuan-Peng refined his body? Xiao-Hao's eyes lit up. He was very interested. The body of the Kuan-Peng, one of the Archean Vicious 10, was beyond imagination. If he could use the Kuan-Peng's method to strengthen his body, it would be very beneficial. Let's go. Let's try the Kuan-Peng's method. Using the water-controlling technique, the two rushed to the bottom of the sea and rushed to the place where the Kuan-Peng refined his body. After a while, they passed through a light screen and came to an extremely strange place. There was a fire pool, a cold spring, and a valley. The fire pool emitted a monstrous heat wave that could melt gold and iron. It was as if even the void was going to melt. The cold spring was bone-chilling, and even the air seemed to be frozen. As for the valley, the pressure was so great that it was as if the stars in the sky were going to fall down. As expected of the place where the Kuan-Peng refined his body. It's really terrifying. These 3 places were simply dangerous places. Even with the two's powerful bodies, they still felt that it was unbearable. This place is suitable for us to train ourselves. After a series of battles, the two's bodies have been reconstructed countless times and became even more powerful. Refining in these 3 dangerous places would definitely bring them great benefits. Let's go. The blood in their bodies surged like a raging tide. The two stepped into the first dangerous place, the fire pool. Boom! Blazing flames surged, burning everything in its path. Such fierce firepower. In an instant, the two felt that their bodies were about to be roasted and burned. Burn! Their bodies were burning. This strange flame seemed to have burned every inch of their flesh. Every inch of their skin was on fire. It was really burnt. Their bodies were charred black, and the two of them seemed to have been burned to a crisp. Boom! A brilliant golden light exploded within his body as the power of the Grand Supreme Jin Dan gushed out. His charred body instantly recovered, and then he continued to be burned to a crisp. This cycle continued, burning, recovering, and then continuing to burn, after an unknown period of time, until I don't seem to feel anything. Little Shirtu grabbed a ball of flame and rubbed it against his body a few times as if he was taking a bath. Even when the flame was extinguished, he didn't feel any discomfort. Her sparkling skin released the precious light of an exceptional divine artifact. It was pure and flawless, brilliant and brilliant, as if it was forged from divine materials. The first step has been completed. Let's go to the cold spring. The fire pool could no longer achieve the effect of tempering the body. The two of them walked out of the fire pool and stepped into the cold spring. He sucked in a breath of cold air. This was really cold air. The extreme cold that seemed to freeze even their souls made the two, who had just come out of the fire pool, face another huge test. Under the extreme cold, their bodies became very weak. Xiao casually took out a weapon that he had snatched. As soon as it appeared in the cold spring, this weapon, which was made from the bones of an ancient species, was instantly frozen into powder. The Kuan Peng's body is actually so strong, it's simply beyond imagination. With the two's physiques, they were only able to endure it with the power of the Grand Supreme Jin Dan. The Kuan Peng naturally couldn't have the Grand Supreme Jin Dan. If it could endure such a test with just the recovery ability of its body, then how strong was the Kuan Peng's body? All right, this was actually a misunderstanding. Even if the Kuan Peng used these three dangerous places to temper its body, it wouldn't dare to directly walk in like the two of them. At most, it would use this power to temper its body at the periphery. If the Kuan Peng was still alive, it would probably be so scared that its eyeballs would fall out when it saw the two of them using such a bold method of tempering their body. After tempering his body in the cold spring, he had experienced life and death, and after being reborn again and again, the cold spring had already become a bathing pool. Haha, this is so refreshing. Little Stone rushed out of the cold spring and ran into the fire pool. He roasted himself until his entire body was red. Then, he plunged into the cold pool again. There was a sizzling sound, like a piece of red-hot iron falling into the water. Stop fooling around. There's still the last test. Let's try the Valley of Fallen Stars. After rushing out of the cold pool, the two of them stepped into a valley behind the cold pool. Boom! As soon as they stepped into the valley, it was as if there was a huge, boundless, and extremely heavy mountain pressing down on them. The huge pressure made the two of them, who had strong bodies, tremble. What a strong pressure. This thing seems to be very similar to the power of the earth. Could it be that the Kuan Peng set up the array with the power of the earth? The power of the earth had another name, gravity. After stepping into this valley, the gravity on the two of them seemed to have increased by tens of thousands of times. If an ordinary person walked in, they would probably be crushed in a meat paste in an instant. Bang! 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 With heavy footsteps, they moved forward step by step. With every step, it was as if they were walking with the sky on their backs. It was as if the whole earth was pressing down on them. Without using any magic or precious techniques, the two of them relied entirely on the strength of their bodies. In this place, which was said to be able to press down on the stars, they moved forward step by step, tempering themselves step by step. Blood was flowing. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. With every step forward, the pressure on their bodies seemed to double. Their extremely strong bodies seemed to be falling apart. This valley seemed to have no end. They didn't know how long they had walked and how many times their bodies had been broken and reborn, until the two of them stepped into the end of the valley. Taihao, do you still remember the mortal-immortal martial path that we cultivated? There's a magic realm in the mortal-immortal martial path called rebirth from a drop of blood. We can use this opportunity to break through and reach the rebirth from a drop of blood. The chi and blood in his body surged. The mighty chi and blood were like a vast ocean, rolling and surging. Rebirth from a drop of blood. Break for me, Xiao Hao madly roared. With a boom, his entire body exploded into a bloody mist that filled the sky. Boom! Endless vitality suddenly erupted. The bloody mist gathered again, and Xiao Hao's figure appeared again. Good fellow, rebirth from a drop of blood. Seeing this scene, Little Stone nodded in admiration. Now it's my turn. Boom! With a loud explosion, Little Stone also exploded into a bloody mist that filled the sky. Brilliant golden light surged. As the golden light flickered, Little Stone's figure condensed again. Xiao Hao, the rebirth from a drop of blood of the mortal-immortal martial path, seems similar to the spiritualization of the physical body of the spirit transformation realm. At this moment, my will is running through every part of my body. Feeling his body condensing again, Little Stone discovered that he had reached the spiritualization realm, the spiritualization of the physical body. I'm afraid it's even stronger than the spiritualization of the physical body. Xiao Hao reached out his hand, and the hair that had been burned to ashes in the fire pool instantly grew back. Even the growth of each strand of hair can be controlled by my will. If I want to change my appearance now, I don't even need Jian's 72 transformations. It seems the pressure in this valley has decreased a lot. I don't feel any pressure at all. Little Stone waved his hands and feet. He felt that the heavy pressure that shrouded his body seemed to have disappeared. It's not that there's no pressure, but that pressure is useless to us. Xiao Hao smiled. We have completed the Kuan Peng body refining path. I don't know how much time has passed. We should go out and take a look. Yes. It's time to go out and take a look. Little Shirtu nodded his head. Then, he dashed out with Xiao Hao. Chapter 636. How long has it been? They rushed out of the sea and returned to the Kuan Peng's nest. In front of them, it was empty. There was not a single person. The entire Kuan Peng's nest was dead silent. Other than the corpses all over the ground, there was no living person. A long time must have passed when we were refining our bodies. Looking at the situation, the treasure hunt in the Kuan Peng's nest has been over for a long time. They walked into the Kuan Peng's nest. This vast space was silent. Even the herbs in the medicine field have been plucked clean. I'm afraid the Kuan Peng's nest has been swept clean by them. Little Stone looked around and shook his head. The real Kuan Peng treasure technique is still there. Let's go there directly. When Little Stone opened the door with the 10 paradises, he had received the information left behind by the Kuan Peng. He knew where the Real inheritance was. The two of them unfolded the wings of Ing Zhao and flew all the way. After a while, they arrived in front of a huge palace. At this moment, the palace's door was open. Obviously, this place had been visited by others. They can't take away the Kuan Peng treasure technique. Little Stone followed the information and walked into the palace. He climbed up a huge altar that was as tall as a mountain and arrived in front of a deep and dark cave. According to the information I received, the real Kuan Peng treasure technique is in here. Little Stone's entire body burst out with a mighty aura of blood and chi. He leaped into the dark cave. Xiao Hao hurriedly followed closely behind and jumped down as well. The cave was dark and incomparably deep. After a long time, the two of them landed on the ground. There was a long tunnel under their feet. After passing through the tunnel, a huge stone door blocked their way. Vaguely, a boundless and majestic aura came out from the stone door. The vast aura made people's hearts tremble. The Kuan Peng treasure technique is in here. Little Stone reached out and pressed on the stone door. The aura in his body was mighty. He used the enormous strength of his body to push the stone door. Under Little Stone's enormous strength, the stone door opened. Buzz, a trembling sound shook the void. In front of them was a vast expanse of divine light. The light that filled the sky was as vast and boundless as the sea. This was a huge stone room. There was a blood pool in it. In the blood pool burst out a bright golden light. Roar! A deafening roar resounded as countless runes burst out from the blood pool. Of the thousands of runes, Half were golden and the other half were black. Bang! The runes intertwined and connected with each other, forming a golden rock that seemed to be cast from gold. The great Pung formed by the runes looked down on the world, its might shaking the ancient times. Roar! The runes scattered and reassembled. The black light that filled the sky was like a surging tide. A large black fish floated within the black light, its aura shocking the heavens. This is the Kuan Pung treasure technique. Xiao Hao and little Shirtu stared blankly at the scene above the blood pool. The treasure techniques of the Vicious Ten are indeed tyrannical. The two of them sighed in admiration and quickly calmed down. They sat cross-legged next to the blood pool and stared at the symbols without blinking. They memorized the changes of each symbol and remembered the paths of each symbol to understand the true essence of the Kuan Peng's treasure technique. Overturning the seas and rivers as a Kuan, roaming heaven and earth as a Peng. I see. After an unknown period of time, Xiao Hao and little Shirtu opened their eyes at the same time. A bright smile appeared on their faces. The treasure technique of the Vicious Ten, the world's strongest treasure technique. It's really too powerful. It's many times stronger than the pure-blooded treasure techniques that we learned before. Little Shirtu waved his hands, and two Kuan Peng wings appeared. The wings covered the sky, and the aura was vast and mighty, as if even the void was about to be cut open. The Vicious Ten can be said to be the world's strongest race. Their power is naturally not to be underestimated. Xiao Hao clasped his hands together, and a large black fish appeared. The large fish swung its tail, and the boundless power seemed to be able to overturn the world. Xiao Hao, the heavenly six paths of reincarnation passed down by the ancestor, is the peerless heavenly technique that drives the treasure technique. If we use the heavenly six paths of reincarnation to drive the Kuan Peng's treasure technique, its power won't be any weaker than the Kuan Peng's. Little Shirtu put away the treasure technique and said greedily, "Unfortunately, there's only one treasure technique of the Vicious Ten. If we learn all the treasure techniques of the Vicious Ten, how strong would the 10 heavenly caves be to nurture the Vicious Ten? How greedy! How could the treasure techniques of the Vicious Ten be so easy to obtain?" As Xiao Hao spoke, his body suddenly shook. He was dumbstruck and tongue-tied. It was as if he had been petrified and was completely stunned. Xiao Hao, what's wrong with you? What happened? Little Shirtu was shocked. Did something happen to Xiao Hao? Did he go crazy while cultivating the Kuan Peng treasure technique? Phew. After a while, Xiao Hao let out a long breath as if he had suffered a great shock. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and looked at little Shirtu with a bitter smile. It's really as you said. Learning all the treasure techniques of the Vicious Ten is no problem at all. Little Shirtu was stunned. I was just joking. Come and see for yourself. Xiao Hao waved his hand, and the new scene in the Supreme Palace appeared in front of little Shirtu. Supreme Palace's Scripture Pavilion. Little Shirtu released his soul and probed into the Scripture Pavilion. Then he was scared silly. It actually has all of them? It really has all the treasure techniques of the Vicious Ten? Seeing the true dragon, true phoenix, Qilin, and Kuan Peng. Little Shirtu was shocked to find that the Scripture Pavilion actually had all the treasure techniques of the Vicious Ten. As for the other pure-blooded, true spirit treasure techniques, there were at least hundreds of them. Supreme Palace, its foundation is so deep. It's simply frightening. Little Shirtu was dumbstruck and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. What? It even has the innate divine abilities of our divine striking stone clan? The divine striking stone jumped up in shock. Our divine striking stone clan has very few people. Where did your ancestral master get our clan's divine abilities? Your divine striking stone clan wasn't considered rare in the immortal ancient era. True dragon, true phoenix, Qilin, they were hard to find in the immortal ancient era. Lil Pagoda was also shocked for a long time. Grand Empyrean? Where did your ancestral master come from? Collecting all the treasured techniques of the Vicious Ten, even in the immortal ancient era, it was impossible. Divine abilities and treasured techniques were the foundation of a clan's existence. Even if they died, they had to explode their true life talismans to prevent their divine abilities and treasure techniques from being leaked. To obtain the innate precious techniques of the Vicious Ten was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Haha, ancestral masters' divine abilities are vast. How could it be something you can imagine? Xiao Hao laughed loudly. Supreme Palace's foundation was so deep, their origins so terrifying, it was simply too great. You guys are going to defy the heavens. You guys are strong beyond belief. The Divine Striking Stone said gloomily, Our Divine Striking Stone clan has the strongest defense. Nine-Leaf Sword Grass has the strongest sharpness. Heavenly Horned Ant has the strongest power. Together with the other Vicious Ten's treasure techniques, just how strong would you guys be? Strong, wasn't that good? Xiao Hao and Little Shirtu looked at each other and smiled. Chapter 637. This blood pool contains the true blood of the Kuan Peng. It's also a treasure. Xiao Hao walked to the side of the blood pool and waved his hand, collecting the true blood of the Kuan Peng into the Supreme Palace. There shouldn't be anything left here. Little Shirtu looked around and said, We should also go back. Who knows how long it's been since we refined our bodies and comprehended the Kuan Peng's treasured arts. Yes, it's time to go back. We've gained a lot this time. The Kuan Peng had refined his body to the point where he could be reborn from a single drop of blood, and had fought a great battle with 100,000 cultivators. This was already a huge gain. The two of them had already laid down a foundation as solid as divine iron on their path of cultivation. Then let's go. Xiao Hao turned around and was about to leave when he suddenly received a notification from the Supreme Palace. There are more treasures over there. Xiao Hao paused and hurriedly turned to look in the direction the Supreme Palace had indicated. Over there, Xiao Hao sensed a hole hidden in the void. If not for the Supreme Palace's notification, Xiao Hao wouldn't have discovered it all. What is it that's hidden so deeply? Xiao Hao hurriedly pulled Little Stone, who was about to leave, and the two of them arrived at the hidden cave. There are runes sealing it, but the Supreme Palace can undo the seal. Following the Supreme Palace's instructions, Xiao Hao waved his hand, and an invisible wave swept past. The seal was removed, and the cave opened. Are those Kuan Peng eggs? Inside the cave, there were 3 huge eggs that were about 3 feet tall. They emitted a sparkling light as they floated in the cave. The Kuan Peng left behind descendants. The two of them hurriedly rushed into the cave and arrived in front of the 3 huge eggs. So they've already been destroyed. The 3 huge eggs had already been broken. Although there was still some egg liquid left, the life inside had already died. The Ancestral Master is so powerful that he might be able to save it. Let's take it back first. Xiao Hao waved his hand and stored the 3 huge eggs in the Supreme Palace. Boom! After storing the huge eggs, there was a sudden explosion in the cave. In the depths of the cave, a long halberd emitted endless light, revealing a tyrannical aura that could split heaven and earth. The desolate heaven halberd, the Kuan Peng's weapon. Be careful, that's an immortal artifact. Small Tower's cry of surprise entered their ears, causing their bodies to tremble as they hurriedly stopped in their tracks. So it's already damaged. At this time, Xiao Hao and Little Shirtu also noticed. This dark golden halberd had already been broken into 3 pieces and was now just pieced together. The peerless, immortal weapon, the ultimate treasure that accompanied the Kuan Peng to conquer the world. Has it been destroyed too? Even its spirituality has dissipated. Small Pagoda let out a long sigh and remained silent for a long time. A damaged immortal artifact? This is also a supreme treasure. Xiao Hao naturally wouldn't be courteous. He stretched out his hand and put away the halberd as well. All right, now there's really nothing left. The two of them turned around and left the cave. They spread their wings and flew out of the Kuenpang's nest. After passing through a layer of light, the two of them returned to the North Sea. "Young lord, you guys are out?" As soon as the two of them appeared, Cheong-chi and the sky-devouring sparrow flew over. The blood and chi of the two young masters is as vast as the ocean. The divine light was as brilliant as the blazing sun. In these 3 years, the two young masters have gained a lot. Cheong-chi exclaimed when he saw the unimaginable blood and chi of the two of them. The two young masters' divine prowess overflowed the heavens. They faced 100,000 cultivators and beat them into submission. They were invincible. The sky-devouring sparrow was also amazed. The name of the young masters has already spread throughout the world. It's already been 3 years. Xiaohao sighed. As expected, there is no time in cultivation. It's already been 3 years since I went into seclusion to refine my body. Let's go. It's time to go back. Climbing onto the back of the mount, the two of them soared into the air and rushed back to Stone Village. The training in the North Sea is over. The results are not bad. Liu was very satisfied with the results of Xiaohao and Little Shitta's training. Although they didn't break through to the next realm and their strength was still at the spirit transformation realm, their foundation was already terrifyingly solid. With this foundation, your future will be secure. After we go back, we can use the true primordial record as the foundation to analyze the treasured techniques of the 10 ferocious beasts. It will be a piece of cake for us to break through to the inscription realm. Liu raised his head to look at the horizon, and a smile appeared on his face. In another 3 years, the sovereign martial artist of the upper realm will descend into the lower realm. In 3 years, the two of them should reach the venerable realm and the peak of the mortal realm. At that time, we can go to the upper realm. It's a pity that the 3 Kuenpang eggs were killed. The Kuenpang clan had paid a terrible price to resist the invasion of the outer realm. Except for one posthumous child, almost all of them had died. Heavenly Emperor Huang needs helpers. The stronger the better, and the more the better. So I'll save these 3 Kuenpang eggs. With a wave of his hand, the 3 Kuenpang eggs stored in Xiaohao's supreme palace instantly fell into Li Yu's storage. In fact, it's impossible to save them. At most, I can only create Kuenpang with the information of the bloodline. They had the same bloodline information and the same foundation. Although they were created by Li Yu, they were still Kuenpang. They were completely real Kuenpang. System: extract the power of the dark, immortal general. Use the bloodline information of the Kuenpang eggs as the foundation, and use the power of the immortal general to create a Kuenpang. With a sweep of the 5-colored light, the 3 Kuenpang eggs instantly disappeared. Endless immortal light rushed up, and a huge amount of life force kept gathering. After a while, 3 giant beasts appeared in the storage. After a short while, the 3 huge black fish that were over 30 meters long turned into 3 giant rocks that were shining with golden light. The 2 forms kept changing. One was a fish, the next was a bird. These 3 Kuenpangs are still young. Looking at the 3 Kuenpangs in the storage, Liu shook his head. They were created directly. They still lack experience. Even if there's a lot of growth and battle experience in the fictional memories, it's still not enough. Liu waved his hand and released the 3 Kuenpangs. Chirp, chirp! The 3 rock-shaped Kuenpangs flew around Liu while chirping. These 3 Kuenpangs are not ordinary. However, they still lack experience. I don't have the experience of raising fish and birds. Therefore, I should just throw them into Stone Village and let them grow together with Heavenly Emperor Huang. Liu waved his hand and swept up the 3 Kuenpangs. He broke through the void and threw them into Stone Village. At the same time, the wall of gods and demons was also thrown over by Li Yu. Boom! A loud sound came from the sky. Everyone in Stone Village raised their heads in shock. They saw a huge stone wall fall from the sky, turning into a wall and wrapping the entire Stone Village inside. Chirp, chirp! The 3 golden rocks flapped their wings, but they couldn't fly at all. They staggered and fell into the demonic spirit lake in front of Stone Village. Splash! With the sound of water splashing, the 3 golden rocks turned into 3 big black fish. They set off huge waves as they happily swam in the demonic spirit lake. What is this situation? Everyone in Stone Village was dumbfounded. Grand Empyrean, with a flash of green light, Willow Deity's figure appeared. Seeing the changes in Stone Village, Willow Deity sighed. The wall of gods and demons and the Kuan Pengs. Grand Empyrean, you really put in a lot of effort. Chapter 638. Since the Kuan Peng youngsters are in Stone Village, I'll take the Kuan Peng's body refinement ground as well. Liu turned his head towards the northern sea. He reached out and grabbed, passing through the distant space and grabbing the small space where the Kuan Peng's body refinement ground was. This thing is also quite useful. In the future, others can also use it to refine their bodies. With a slap, the small space where the Kuan Peng's body refinement ground was sent into the demonic spirit lake in front of Stone Village by Liu. Even the Kuan Peng's body refinement ground was brought over. It seems like Grand Empyrean really has great expectations for Stone Village. Willow Deity looked at everyone in Stone Village and sighed. Being powerful isn't necessarily a good thing. Although the lives of ordinary people are short, they still have their own happiness. Once they step onto this path, the future will be filled with a rain of blood. Willow Deity naturally understood the reason why Liu nurtured everyone in Stone Village. Since the opportunity to pacify the darkness was on Little Stone, then Grand Empyrean was preparing an army for Little Stone. Thinking of that incomparably bitter battle, even Willow Deity himself had a narrow escape. Wasn't this kind of battle and killing too heavy for these people? Could Little Stone and the people of Stone Village really shoulder this burden that was heavier than the heavens? Willow Deity was speechless. Even immortal kings would fall. No one could shoulder this kind of burden. However, everyone was fighting. For themselves and for this world, they were fighting for a chance of survival. Liu didn't know what Willow Deity was thinking. Although the future he saw in the Northern Sea made Liu feel extremely anxious, he was still full of confidence towards Heavenly Emperor Huang's future. Ruling through the ages, unrivaled in the world, Heavenly Emperor Huang was matchless and heroic. His future victory was inevitable. The 3 Kuan Peng youngsters have settled in Stone Village, but I still need to find a parent for them. Liu raised his eyes towards the horizon. His gaze passed through the great wastelands and saw another region, the lower realms' Immortal Mountain. The Kuan Peng's son's Peng body is suppressed under the Immortal Mountain. Even though it's only one of the Kuan Peng's 2 bodies, it's still extremely powerful. Its strength is close to the Supreme Being realm. Liu smiled and said, "This poor Taoist has already rescued your younger brother and sister. You should obediently come over and take care of the children." With a sway of his body, Liu's figure turned into a streak of clear light. He silently merged into the void and instantly arrived below the Immortal Mountain. Heaven and earth are black and yellow. The universe is vast and desolate. This is one of the 8 domains of the lower realm, the mysterious domain. Liu's figure noiselessly appeared at the foot of the Xian region's holy land, the Immortal Mountain. The lower realm's Immortal Mountain is merely a branch of the higher realm's Immortal Mountain. However, to be able to suppress the body of the son of the Kuan Peng here, should I say that the lower realm is indeed a cage? Everyone uses the lower realm as a cage. He swept his eyes over the Immortal Mountain. Under a great mountain that was rich with the power of the 5 elements, there was a completely golden human figure with a pair of golden wings on his back that was being suppressed. Even though this 5-phase mountain is only a Supreme Being magical artifact, there are countless seals. With another Supreme Being magical artifact suppressing it, it can still be considered safe. The son of the Kuan Peng was a Supreme Being, but there was only one Peng body here, so it couldn't be considered a true Supreme Being. After being sealed, even the Supreme Being magical artifact 5-phase mountain could suppress him. Stone Village's 3 little Kuan Pengs still need a nanny. Youngster, as the older brother, You can't shirk your responsibility. He reached out his hand and grabbed. His hand passed through time and space, ignoring all of the seals. Liu played it down and silently grabbed the Kuan Peng child. He casually tossed him into the resource storage. Liu turned into a streak of clear light and silently passed through the void. He instantly returned to the depths of the great wastelands. The Kuan Peng child has been suppressed by someone for countless years. Even though he didn't die, too much of his strength was used up. I am kind-hearted, so I'll help you out. He extracted a wave of immortal force from a dark, immortal general's body, turning it into pure vital energy and sending it into the Kuan Peng child's body. In that instant, this Kuan Peng child that looked as thin as a match immediately became full of flesh and blood, his aura surging like a rainbow. Not bad. Now you have the appearance of a nanny. With a wave of his sleeves, the Kuan Peng child was released by Liu. The Kuan Peng child suddenly appeared in the outside world. When he saw Liu standing in front of him, his mind immediately tightened. His entire body's strength suddenly surged, his eyes releasing an ominous glint. The Kuan Peng child's temper was so bad that he even dared to poke a hole in the sky. No matter what he encountered, the first thing he would think of was smashing his fist over. However, this fist of his couldn't smash down at all. Senior, you saved me. The Kuan Peng child had just raised his fist, but he immediately stopped. He already understood that he was saved from the seal by this person in front of him. He had a bad temper and a straightforward personality, but he clearly distinguished kindness and grudges, knowing how to repay kindness. He couldn't do something like attacking his benefactor. Furthermore, he couldn't win against him. I'll ask someone to take care of the child here. After looking around, you're the most suitable one. That's why I brought you here. Liu smiled and nodded at the Kuan Peng child. Take care of the child? Me? The Kuan Peng child pointed at the tip of his nose, dumbfounded. Senior, are you sure? I can still take care of the child. I'm still suitable to take care of the child. More importantly, even if you're my benefactor, taking care of the child, I really can't do anything about it. The Kuan Peng child's heart was depressed. Yes, Liu didn't seem to see the depressed look on the Kuan Peng child's face. Instead, he nodded matter-of-factly. If you don't take care of your younger brother and sister, do you want me to take care of them? My younger brother and sister? The Kuan Peng child jumped up in shock. Then, his face was filled with suspicion. Senior, are you joking? I'm the only one left in my family. I'm a posthumous child myself. I haven't even seen my parents' faces. How can I have any younger brother and sister? It was originally like this. However, some time ago, I's disciple found a few Kuan Peng eggs in the North Sea Kuan Peng nest. I found that those Kuan Peng eggs still had a trace of vitality, so I took action to save them. Speaking of this, Liu shook his head again. After saving them, trouble came. I have never raised a Kuan Peng before, so how would I know how to raise it? After searching for so long, I could only find you back. Kuan Peng nest? Save Kuan Peng eggs? This is real? The Kuan Peng child was so excited that his whole body trembled, and his eyes were a little red. Just take a look for yourself. With a wave of his hand, Liu directly opened a space portal in front of him. Through the portal, on the surface of the demonic spirit lake, 3 big black fishes were stirring up waves of waves, playing and chasing each other. It's real. It's really my younger brother and sister. It's really my younger brother and sister. The Kuan Peng child's eyes were red. With a plop sound, he knelt down in front of Liu. Thank you, Senior. The Kuan Peng child will never forget Senior's kindness. I's grand elder. That village is where I live. From now on, you can take care of your younger brother and sister there. Yes. Thank you, grand elder. The Kuan Peng child kowtowed heavily, then wiped his tears and went into the portal. He jumped into the demonic spirit lake, hugged the 3 little Kuan Pengs, and cried loudly. Chapter 639. What's going on? Seeing the golden figure descending from the sky, jumping into the lake, and crying while hugging the 3 fish, everyone in Stone Village was dumbfounded. An adult Kuan Peng. Seeing this, Willow deity was filled with admiration for Grand Empyrean. 3 baby Kuan Pungs, and an adult Kuan Pung of the Supreme Realm. Grand Empyrean is really good at doing business. At this moment, Kuan Pung Z also collected his emotions and let go of the 3 infant Kuan Pungs before walking to the shore. As expected of Senior Grand Empyrean's disciple, when he saw the divine mountain and spiritual lake before him, the mysterious and unfathomable wall of gods and devils, the herb garden with vast and mighty spiritual light, and the verdant willow tree, Kuan Pung Z's entire body shook. That's the legendary wall of gods and demons, right? It actually became this village's wall. That herb garden has the unaging divine spring, right? More importantly, Kuan Pung Z looked at Willow deity and was stunned. Is this an immortal spirit? This village's guardian spirit is actually an immortal spirit? Walking to the front of the village, Kuan Pung Z bowed respectfully. I'm Kuan Pung Z. Thanks to Senior Grand Empyrean's grace, you saved my younger siblings. I'm very grateful. Turning his head to look at the 3 infant Kuan Pungs playing in the lake, a smile appeared on Kuan Pung Z's face. My younger siblings are still young. I would like to take care of them here. I hope that everyone can make it convenient. So it's Grand Empyrean's grace. The old chief nodded. We also received Grand Empyrean's grace for the village to have today's atmosphere. Since we are all on the same side, as long as you don't mind, you can stay. Many thanks. Kuan Pung Z bowed and thanked the old chief. Caw! At this moment, a bird cry came from the horizon. The family of 4 green sky pungs spread their wings and flew over. Seeing Kuan Pung Z and the 3 black fish in the lake, the green sky, Pung exclaimed. It landed in the village and stared at Kuan Pung Z. The green sky Pung was originally a descendant of the Kuan Pung. Seeing Kuan Pung Z's Pung form, the bloodline connection made the green sky Pung tremble. So it's your clan? Kuan Pung Z nodded. Your bloodline is quite pure. Although you are a bit far away, you can be counted as a branch of my clan. Greetings, Lord Kuan Pung. The Azure Sky Pung family hurriedly bowed to Kuan Pung Z. Get up. Kuan Pung Z nodded. Thanks to Heavenly Venerable Tai's grace, I am here to take care of my younger brother and sister. Since we've all settled down in the village, we're all family. There's no need to be so polite. Chirp, chirp, roar. The figures of the sky-swallowing sparrow and Cheong-chi appeared in the distance, whistling as they flew over. Xiao-hao and little Shir-tu are back. These 2 brats have been out for 3 years, and they're finally back. Seeing the figures of the heaven-swallowing sparrow and Cheong-chi, everyone in Stone Village cheered loudly. Are those 2 the disciples of Senior Grand Supreme? Kuan Pung Z's eyes flashed with surprise when he saw the figures on the backs of the 2 ferocious beasts. Their vital energy and blood are like the ocean, vast and majestic, and their bodies are extremely strong. As expected of Senior Grand Supreme's disciple. We're back. Cheong-chi and the sky-swallowing sparrow landed on the ground. Little Shirtu stretched out his hands and shouted as he jumped down. We have guests at home. Xiao-hao jumped down from Cheong-chi's back and looked up to see Kuan Pung Z. He smiled and nodded. You 2 must be Senior Supreme's disciples. Kuan Pung Z stepped forward and cupped his hands. I'm Kuan Pung Z. Thanks to Senior Supreme's grace, my younger brother and sister were saved. According to Heavenly Venerable, my younger brother and sister were saved by you 2. I'm eternally grateful for your great kindness. When ancestors saved the Kuan Peng's egg, he told me. Xiao-hao turned his head to look at the 3 Kuan Pungs playing in the spiritual lake and smiled. Those are the little Kuan Pungs saved by ancestor, right? They're indeed extraordinary. It's all because of Senior Supreme's grace that my younger brother and sister could be reborn. Kuan Pung Z glanced at Xiao-hao and little Shirtu and smiled. Kuan Peng's treasure technique, I have some insights. If you 2 are interested, why don't we discuss it together? We're eternally grateful for Senior's kindness. Kuan Pung Z was a supreme expert, and he was an authentic Kuan Pung. The Kuan Peng's treasure technique was his innate ability. How could he only have some insights? If they could get Kuan Pengzi's guidance, their understanding of the Kuan Peng's treasure technique would definitely be deeper. Both of you are disciples of heavenly venerables. How dare I be your senior? We'll just call each other as equals. I have a name called Bumia. You two can call me Brother Bumia. With Kuan Pengzi's insight, he could naturally see that the two had a bright future. What's more, Kuan Pengzi was a straightforward person. As long as they hit it off, he wouldn't put on any airs at all. I'm Xiao Hao. I'm Tai Hao. Xiao Hao and Lil Shirtu bowed to Kuan Pengzi. Greetings, Brother Bumia. Ha ha, good. From now on, we're brothers. Kuan Pengzi laughed loudly and was extremely forthright. Since there are guests, let's hold a banquet. The old chief waved his hand, and Stone Village immediately took action. Grandpa Chief, we caught a few loaches from the North Sea. We still have a lot of monkey wine from last time. Today, we'll hold a banquet to welcome Brother Bumia. Xiao Hao waved his hand and released a pile of gray flood dragons. This was the so-called seafood that Xiao Hao brought back under Little Shitta's request during the North Sea battle. Gray flood dragons? Not bad. Not bad. I haven't eaten flood dragons for many years. I really miss it. Kuan Pengzi had been sealed for countless years. It could really be said that he hadn't eaten it for many years. Let's not talk about anything else. Just eat your fill. Little Shirtu laughed loudly and impudently patted Kuan Pengzi's shoulder before walking into the village with his arm around his shoulder. This supreme-level Kuan Peng is really a forthright person. I think they'll get along well. Willow Deity smiled and nodded. The Grand Empyrean probably chose this Kuan Pengzi because of his personality. If he's the kind of supreme realm who puts on airs, then they won't be able to get along at all. Everyone from Stone Village was overjoyed. A grand banquet was about to begin. Then, Little Shitu's boast of eating his fill was exaggerated. Kuan Pengzi's appetite scared everyone. Xiao Hao took out all the seafood that he had collected from the North Sea. Those huge sea beasts that were as huge as small hills were eaten by Kuan Pengzi, just like that. Seeing everyone's shocked gazes, Kuan Pengzi touched his head in embarrassment. I haven't eaten for a long time, so I couldn't control myself. Ha ha, Brother Bumia, from today onwards, the name of a glutton will no longer fall on my head. Little Shirtu laughed loudly. We haven't finished eating those 2 spiders from last time. Bring them over. Xiao Hao got up and walked to the warehouse. He brought over the 2 large spiders that had a few legs eaten. Roasted spider legs. Brother Bumia, let's continue eating. This is a pure-blooded, true spirit of the Supreme Realm. Not bad, good stuff. Then, the glutton started eating again. From then on, an even fiercer glutton came to Stone Village. Chapter 640. Ha ha, so refreshing. A pair of golden wings broke through the sky and smashed the Yazid beast in front of him into pieces. Kuan Pengzi was in high spirits and laughed loudly. This was the Wall of Gods and Devils. The original Wall of Gods and Devils couldn't withstand the power of the Supreme Realm. After being solidified by Li Yu with runes, the Supreme Realm Kuan Pengzi could also enter the Wall of Gods and Devils to break through. There were 108 levels on the Wall of Gods and Devils, and every level was a real bloody battle. Even Kuan Pengzi was beaten black and blue. Xiao Hao and Lil Stone were naturally frequent visitors of the Wall of Gods and Devils. Clang, the sky was filled with sword lights, tearing the sky apart and cutting through everything. A 9-leaf sword grass burst out with endless sword lights and cut through the sky. It is so painful. Little Stone's body burst out with a thick yellow light as he resisted the 9-leaf sword grass's peerless sword chi and was bleeding all over. Blood rebirth. As his blood and chi surged, the injuries on his body were instantly healed. Then, he continued to be cut. Little Stone was honing the divine, striking stone's treasured art. The world's strongest defense against the world's sharpest weapon. Originally, they were evenly matched, but Little Stone's treasured art cultivation was still shallow and hadn't reached the peak. Under the attack of the 9-leaf sword grass, it still couldn't resist. Grass, symbol sword art. Nothing can't cut through. In another trial space, Xiaohao used his fingers like a sword and used the grass symbol sword art to hack at a huge rock. Boom! The huge rock burst out with a yellow light, and the sword lights couldn't cut through it at all. More importantly, swish, swish, swish. Under the explosion of this yellow light, Xiaohao's sword lights were all reflected back. The divine striking stone is indeed powerful. After dodging the sword lights in a sorry state, Xiaohao looked at the divine striking stone in front of him with a helpless expression. As expected of the strongest defense, I can't cut through it all. Boom! The divine striking stone rushed up and smashed down at Xiaohao's head. Sure hit. This move is too shameless. There was no way to dodge the divine striking stone's sure hit attack. Xiaohao let out a furious roar as he unleashed all the strength in his body to resist this attack. Blood splattered, tendons snapped, and bones snapped. Xiaohao was blasted far away. Blood rebirth. As his blood energy surged, his wounds instantly healed. Xiaohao raised his head and said again. Ever since they returned from the North Sea, Xiaohao and little Shirtu had gained a lot. With the wall of gods and demons as an excellent place to temper themselves, how could they let it go? In addition to comprehending the 10 ferocious treasured arts in the Enlightenment Hall, he spent the rest of his time on the wall of demons and gods, constantly tempering himself through countless bloody battles. I'm the successor of the Supreme Hall. If I don't defeat all the opponents in the wall of gods and devils, how can I be called the supreme of the present age? Kill. A bloody battle. Endless bloody battles. He was beaten black and blue all over. His tendons were broken and his bones were broken, but he was still fighting. In the continuous battles, their divine abilities and treasured techniques continuously improved, and their bodies continuously strengthened. The supreme Jin Dan that they had swallowed also continuously fused into their bodies, and their cultivations continuously increased. Slash! That day, Xiaohao hacked apart the divine striking stone with a single slash. At the same cultivation realm, even the world's most powerful defense couldn't stop Xiaohao's sword. Come at me. Come at me. The little Shitu's entire body released a layer of yellow light. He hugged his arms, allowing the 9-leaf sword grass to release endless sword radiance, continuously hacking at him. However, he didn't move at all, unable to harm him in the slightest. At the same cultivation realm, the 9-leaf sword grass, the world's most extreme sharpness, still couldn't break through the little Shitu's defense. Then, the next round of battles began again. This time, the little Shirtu brandished his sword to hack at the divine striking stone, while Xiaohao resisted the 9-leaf sword grass sword energy head-on. After this round ended, the battles continued. Heavenly Horned Ant, the world's most powerful creature. Hee, let's compare our strength. The little Shirtu roared angrily. He similarly displayed the Heavenly Horned Ant's great strength divine ability, swinging his arms to compete in strength, overturning heaven and earth. The Heavenly Horned Ant's most powerful divine ability, the extreme power of overturning the heavens, destroying the earth. I also know this move, the little Shirtu shouted. He also used the overturning heaven and earth move, using offense against offense, meeting force with force. A loud noise sounded. The Heavenly Horned Ant and the little Shirtu flew out at the same time. Qilin steps. On the other side, Xiaohao and Qilin were also using the same move to attack each other. The two youngsters' hearts were both extremely great. They planned to use the same precious techniques to defeat the original owners of these precious techniques. The sword energy was sharper than the 9-leaf sword grass, more tyrannical than the divine striking stone, and more powerful than the Heavenly Horned Ant, more powerful than a true dragon, more powerful than a true phoenix, more powerful than a Qilin, more powerful than all of the archaic, vicious 10. Their cultivations grew day by day, and their opponent's strength similarly rose with the tide. The battles never stopped, and their improvements never stopped either. Time passed day after day under the endless tempering. 3 years later, the two 14-year-old youngsters already stood at the peak. Supreme Expert Realm. After 3 years of continuous tempering, the power of the Most High Jin Dan continuously entered their bodies, and the two's cultivations continuously improved. This continued until they reached the Supreme Expert Realm and passed through all of the checkpoints of the Wall of Gods and Devils, trampling all opponents of the same cultivation realm beneath their feet. Two 14-year-old venerables were unprecedented in history and would never be surpassed in the future. If news of this spread out, it would scare countless people to death. This round of seclusion cultivation finally ended. My supreme being Bone. The little Shirtu rushed out of the Wall of Gods and Devils, endless divine light erupting from his chest. The brilliant radiance rushed into the horizon, and the enormous and mysterious power released an aura of all things in the world being reincarnated, making one's heart palpitate. The supreme being Bone grew out again. When they saw the strange phenomenon on the little Shirtu's body, everyone laughed wildly in joy and surrounded him. Good, good. Our natural-born supreme being has returned. The old clan chief laughed loudly in gratification. Ancestral Master even turned the dual-pupil divine ability into the martial Tao Heavenly Eye technique. We are already at the Supreme Expert Realm, so we can already cultivate the martial Tao Heavenly Eye. When the time comes, we can gather the dual-pupil power and the Supreme Being Bone, making us even more powerful. Xiaohao's face was also full of joy. The Ancestral Master had also passed down a method of condensing the Supreme Being Bone, so he could also refine the Supreme Being Bone and dual pupil power. When the time came, his strength would be able to take another step forward, and who in the world would be able to match him? Your strongest point is also your weakest point. The rebirth of the Supreme Being Bone might not necessarily be a good thing for you. It might become a hindrance on your path forward. Willow Deity's figure appeared in front of everyone. She looked at the reborn Supreme Being Bone in the little Shirtu's chest, seeming a bit dissatisfied. It can't be, right? Xiaohao was extremely shocked by Willow Deity's words. This is the little Shirtu's innate divine ability. How could such a powerful force be a hindrance? That's right. He is an exceptional talent, so his innate divine ability is similar to our Kuan Peng race's divine ability. This is his innate ability, so how could it be a hindrance? Kuan Peng Zi was also a bit confused, but Willow Deity was an immortal, so her knowledge was not ordinary. These words also made Kuan Peng Zi a bit skeptical. If it really was a hindrance, then was the rebirth of the little Shirtu Supreme Being Bone a bad thing? Chapter 641. Willow Deity is right. At this moment, Li Yu's figure silently appeared in Stone Village in front of everyone. There was no earth-shattering phenomenon, nor was there any boundless divine might. It was like a gust of wind, silently appearing just like that. The Heavenly Venerable is actually so unfathomable. Even Willow Deity didn't notice Li Yu's arrival. Only when Li Yu spoke did she realize that Li Yu had arrived. This made Willow Deity extremely shocked. Tao of nature, unity of heaven and man, formless and traceless. The Grand Empyrean's cultivation has actually reached such a level. Willow Deity's original body was a willow tree. She suddenly sensed an origin aura from Li Yu's body, as if it was the origin of all trees. This made Willow Deity even more shocked. Ancestral Master, you're here? Seeing Li Yu appear, Xiaohao was surprised and delighted. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and said, Disciple Xiaohao greets the Grand Ancestral Master. Greetings to the Grand Empyrean. Everyone bowed towards Li Yu. Greetings to the Grand Empyrean. Willow Deity bowed towards Li Yu, then pointed at Little Stone's chest and said to Li Yu, Does the Heavenly Venerable also think that this bone of supremacy is an obstacle? Ancestral Master, will the bone of supremacy really be an obstacle? Although Little Stone hadn't become a disciple of the Supreme Hall, he had received a lot of favors from the Grand Empyrean, so he considered himself a disciple of the Heavenly Venerable. Whether it's an obstacle or not depends on how big your goal is. Liu smiled and nodded. The bone of supremacy is born from heaven and earth. This is an innate ability. If your goal is only within heaven and earth, then it will be your strongest power. If your goal is to surpass all living things in heaven and earth, then it will be an obstacle. But all living things in heaven and earth are born from heaven and earth. Could it be that our bodies are also obstacles? Kuan Pengzi asked doubtfully. In his opinion, all living things in heaven and earth were born from heaven and earth. Didn't that mean that even the body and soul were obstacles? Isn't our cultivation the same as defying the heavens and reshaping the truth? For a mortal to cultivate and become an immortal is a process that defies the heavens and changes one's fate. Liu explained with a smile. I see. Kuan Pengzi was enlightened. Cultivation is going against the heavens. Then, Patriarch, what should I do? When little Shirtu saw the vast divine light erupting from his chest, he couldn't bring himself to be happy. That will depend on your choice. Liu looked at little Shirtu with a smile on his face and asked in an indifferent tone. With the Supreme Being Bone, you could be invincible unto the heavens. If one severed the Supreme Being Bone, they might be able to stand above the heavens and earth, or they might just vanish from the world. Sure, how? What will you choose? My choice. Little Shirtu took a deep breath, and his gaze became incomparably resolute. I want to be the strongest. I want to be above everything in this world. Very good. Liu nodded his head in satisfaction. He stretched out a finger and pointed at little Shitta's chest. Crack! With an explosive sound, the newly grown Supreme Being Bone exploded with a loud bang. Woo! Little Shirtu groaned. His face turned pale, and his feet staggered. How can a single Supreme Being Bone compare to a whole body of Supreme Being Bones? Moreover, how can the Supreme Being Bone given to you by the heavens compare to the Supreme Being Bone that you refined yourself? Liu smiled and said, I've shattered your Supreme Bone and fused it into your blood vessels. The divine ability of your first Supreme Being Bone and the ability of the reborn Supreme Being Bone are both contained in your blood vessels. In the future, when you refine your own Supreme Being Bone, you can merge these two divine abilities into it. Thank you, Patriarch. Little Shirtu bowed and thanked him. Whether it's the Supreme Being Bone or the power of the dual pupils, they can all be refined by oneself. Liu smiled and looked at everyone. My fate is in my own hands and not in the hands of the heavens. How can what is given by the heavens compare to what is mine? When the person with dual pupils had fallen, Liu had already analyzed the dual pupils and the Supreme Being Bone and turned them into a divine ability. Without the dual pupils and the Supreme Being Bone, he had to refine them himself. Even if he had the dual pupils and the Supreme Being Bone, he would still refine them himself if he didn't want them from the heavens. If he wanted to break through the limits of heaven and earth and become an immortal emperor, how could he achieve great things without this kind of spirit? You don't need to continue breaking through your cultivation for the time being. Go out and take a walk. It's the birthday of the Stone Country's human emperor. You should go and settle the past. Liu waved his hand. There are still things of the Supreme Being Palace in the lower realm. Take them back while you're at it. Yes. Xiaohao and little Shirtu naturally had no objections. You can leave now. I have something to say to Willow Deity. Liu dismissed everyone and turned to look at Willow Deity. The laws of the lower realm are incomplete. If they want to continue, they can only go to the upper realm. What do you plan to do in the future? The laws of the upper realm are also incomplete. The chances of becoming an immortal are extremely slim. Willow Deity looked towards the horizon. You stop their cultivation from breaking through, stopping them at the Supreme Being realm. Do you want them to establish a solid foundation and go to the immortal ancient ruins to search for opportunities? There are opportunities in the immortal ancient ruins, and the foreign realm also has complete immortal Tao laws. Moreover, isn't there still the immortal domain? If they can't even become an immortal, what immortal emperor is there to talk about? Liu wasn't worried about Xiaohao and Heavenly Emperor Huang becoming an immortal at all. You have a lot of confidence in them. Willow deity smiled and didn't continue this topic. You are making preparations, and I also have to make preparations. I need to recover to my peak as soon as possible. Moreover, I also want to seek a breakthrough. Therefore, when we reach the upper realm, I have to leave. It's not hard to recover to your peak. Your cultivation realm is still there. You just lack spiritual power. Liu reached out and waved his hand, extracting the power of an immortal king, turning it into a Jindan. For you, when you reach the upper realm, you can absorb this pill and naturally recover to your peak. Immortal King Divine pill. When Willow deity saw this pill, his face was filled with shock. Empyrean even has this kind of divine item? There isn't much left. Liu sighed and shook his head. There were only 8 dark immortal kings in total. Using one was one less. Giving one to Willow deity made Liu's heartache. If not for the countless immortal king powerhouses in the Realm C. In the future, when he worked together with Willow deity to clear the Realm C instance, he would definitely have great gains. Liu was reluctant to take out such a good thing. Empyrean's great kindness. Lu Qing is endlessly grateful. Reaching out to receive the divine pill, Willow deity thought to himself, I really owe Grand Empyrean a great favor. I will have to repay it in the future. I'm also seeking a breakthrough. Willow deity's goal is the Realm C, right? Why don't we wait for a while, and after I make the arrangements, we can join hands to explore the Realm C. This was Liu's plan. If he could obtain the laws of heaven and earth in the upper realm and break through to the immortal king realm, that would be fine. If he couldn't, he had to go to the Realm C. It is Lu Qing's honor to travel with the Sky Sovereign. This kind of thing was exactly what Willow deity wanted, so he naturally couldn't disagree. The Realm C was formed from the countless worlds that had been destroyed over the course of countless eras. Even if these worlds were destroyed, there would still be remnants of the laws of heaven and earth. Analyzing the laws of heaven and earth of the countless broken worlds in the Realm C was also a path to advancement. Moreover, the chaos of the darkness was caused by the countless immortal kings who had been lost in the Realm C for countless eras and had been corroded by the darkness. They had returned to this world, destroying the heavens and destroying the earth, bringing calamity to the common people. These immortal kings were just like the great emperors of the Forbidden Area. Liu didn't plan to let them go. Chapter 642. In the blink of an eye, 10 years have passed. Standing on Xiongqi's back, Xiaohao looked at the familiar scenery of the great wilderness and recalled the time when he traveled alone for 300,000 miles from the western border of Stone Country to Stone Village. The past was vivid in his mind, and it made Xiaohao sigh with emotion. Although I have collected some debts, but little Shurtu clenched his fists tightly, I must take back everything that belongs to me. 10 years had passed, and the 2 4-year-old children had now become handsome and tall young heroes. Their tyrannical bodies made the 2 teenagers tall and straight. After many years of continuous fighting and endless killing in the Wall of Gods and Demons, the 2 teenagers had lost their last trace of immaturity. They were extraordinarily handsome and had an imposing appearance. Standing on the back of a fierce beast, they were calm and dignified. Chongyan City is in front. I lived here in the past. I haven't gone back to the second ancestral land of Stone Clan for many years. Landing far away, Xiaohao stood on a mountain peak and looked in the direction of Stone Clan's second ancestral land. Let's go back and take a look. Little Shurtu also sighed in his heart. If Xiaohao's family hadn't risked their lives to save him, he would have died under the Rain Clan's pursuit. Let's go. Bypassing Chongyun City, the 2 traveled with the wind and rushed to the second ancestral land. The sky-swallowing sparrow and Xiongqi also transformed into their human forms and followed behind the 2. After a while, an old and dilapidated village appeared in front of the 2. Many years had passed, and this village was even more dilapidated. Back then, Ancestral Master took me in here. Xiao Hao walked into the village and saw the dilapidated courtyard in front of him. He sighed inwardly. No one has taken care of it for many years. The house is about to rot. Pushing open the courtyard door, he walked into the room. Seeing the bed, Xiao Hao knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily. "Grandpa, I'm back." "Your grandpa is buried here?" Little Shirtu followed Xiao Hao and kowtowed in the direction of the bed. "Let's go." After the worship, Xiao Hao didn't want to stay here any longer. He turned around and walked out of the courtyard with little Shirtu. "Who are you people?" As soon as they walked out, a stooped old man with a smoking pipe pointed at Xiao Hao and the others and shouted angrily, "Grandpa Hai." Looking at this old man, Xiao Hao discovered that this was the old man who had fought against the Rain Clan's manager with him back then, Old Hai. "Eh, you are." Old man Hai blinked and stared at Xiao Hao for a while. "You are, young master?" "Little young master has grown so big." "Good. You look talented and have an extraordinary bearing. You are indeed a hero who defeated the Grotto Heaven at the age of 3. Grandpa Hai, you've aged a lot." Seeing the old man's white hair, wrinkled face, and turbid eyes, Xiao Hao sighed inwardly. "Grandpa Hai, I have some herbs here. Please take them to nourish your body. The old man's body is strong. There's no need for that." Old man Hai chuckled and waved his hand. He looked as if he was unwilling to accept his old age. "It's not anything good. Just keep it." Xiao Hao took out a wooden box and handed it to Old Man Hai. "Grandpa Hai, we still have to go to Stone Capital, so we'll be leaving first. Please take care of yourself." After that, Xiao Hao and little Shirtu bid farewell and left. "I can't see through little young master's strength. He is indeed a hero." Old Man Hai sighed and opened the wooden box in his hand. The light of the treasures was abundant, and the spiritual energy was flourishing. The vast and mighty radiance shocked Old Man Hai so much that his jaw dropped. "It's such a precious treasure. Little young master is indeed amazing. When he was 3 years old, he killed bandits and defeated the Grotto Heaven. He was a hero. 10 years had passed. How much had little young master grown?" "Old man, sure. You should be happy to have such a grandson." Old Man Hai put away the wooden box and praised in his heart. "Let's go to Stone Capital directly." After leaving the second ancestral land, the two of them rode on Xiongqi and the sky-swallowing sparrow and soared into the sky. They flew all the way to the capital of Stone Kingdom. The Dahuang ancient kingdom was vast. Even with the sky-swallowing sparrow and Xiongqi's speed, it took them an hour to reach Stone Capital. It's the capital after all. It's disrespectful to the human emperor to fly in directly. The two of them landed outside the city and let the sky-swallowing sparrow and Xiongqi transform into their human forms. They followed behind the two of them and entered the city. It was the human emperor's birthday. All the ancient kingdoms and major forces had sent people to congratulate him. Stone Capital was bustling with people. It was more lively and prosperous than before. It's the capital after all. It's indeed extraordinary. Walking into Stone Capital, they saw thousands of buildings and carriages. It was a bustling scene. Unfortunately, there were some disgusting bugs in this bustling scene. "Despicable humans, get out of my way." 3 iron-armored green centipedes were pulling a luxuriously decorated chariot that was shining brightly as it dashed through the area. The pedestrians on the road were shocked and shouted loudly. They all tried to avoid the carriage and were in a sorry state. "Despicable humans?" I can't bear to hear this sentence. Little Shirtu frowned. He coldly glanced at the carriage and snorted. It was just a snort. However, there was a dragon's roar in this snort. Dragon's aura. Little Stone had cultivated the true dragon treasured skill to be stronger than a true dragon of the same cultivation level. He snorted coldly and naturally exuded the dragon's aura. Boom! The 3 green mantises were so frightened that their eyes rolled back. Their legs gave way and they fell to the ground with a boom. They were in a complete mess. Boom! The carriage that was speeding flipped over and fell to the ground. Bastard! Who dares to offend us? 2 figures rushed out of the overturned carriage. One of them was a young man with a head full of white hair. 2 sharp tiger teeth were exposed at the corner of his mouth. He roared at the sky like a fierce tiger. It was obvious that this was a white tiger in human form. The other person was an authentic human. Moreover, he was someone that Little Stone knew. Shurzitan, the father of the man with polychoria, is related to a certain immemorial divine mountain. Little Stone frowned. The White Tiger clan? From a Shieling divine mountain? How bold! You dare to curse despicable humans in the capital of Stone Kingdom? The White Tiger roared, and everyone retreated. Only Xiaohao and Little Stone remained in their original positions. In this way, the two of them were very conspicuous. It's you? Despicable humans. How dare you sneak attack my carriage? You're courting death. The White Tiger was using this opportunity to vent its anger. It didn't care if these two people were the ones who attacked. In any case, killing them to establish its might was a good way to recover the face it lost when the carriage overturned. Kill! The White Tiger waved its paw. Incomparably sharp blades burst out from its fingertips. They were like sharp claws as they slashed towards Xiaohao and Little Stone. These were the White Tiger's claws. This attack was the White Tiger clan's precious technique, the White Tiger's 7 slaughter blade. You dare to wave your claws at me? How dare you? Little Stone snorted coldly. He also waved his paw and used the White Tiger 7 slaughter blade. Gotcha! The White Tiger's claws shattered. Its hands were shattered. Blood splattered everywhere as it flew back 100 jong. Who are you? The White Tiger roared with a face full of shock. Its clan's secret technique was casually used by someone and even defeated it. Seeing Xiaohao and Little Stone, the White Tiger felt that they were somewhat familiar. It suddenly remembered the two figures in the 100 Mountains secret realm. Its heart immediately thumped, and its body trembled in fear. It's you? It's you? I. Remembering that Taihao seemed to like eating pure-blooded true spirits the most, the White Tiger's forehead broke out in cold sweat, and its body trembled. I know my mistake for offending the two young masters. This is a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Please forgive me. I'll take my leave. I'll take my leave. After repeatedly apologizing, the White Tiger turned and ran. It ran very quickly and anxiously. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. The White Tiger, true spirit of the divine Shieling Mountain, was actually scared away. Where did these two people come from? Everyone watching was shocked. They were also very curious about Xiaohao and Little Stone's identities. Chapter 643. It's you? At this moment, Shurziting recognized the two of them. The man with polychoria had died at their hands, and so had the demonic spirit lake. Even the disciples of the Rain clan and the martial imperial manor had died at their hands. The hatred in his heart had accumulated for a long time. Now that he saw the two culprits, Shurziting's eyes were filled with endless hatred. You two are so vicious. Shurziting had a plan in his mind. He pretended to be filled with righteous indignation as he roared at Xiaohao and Little Stone. You attacked the White Tiger in the Stone Capital and deliberately destroyed the relationship between the Divine Mountain of Shieling and the Stone Kingdom. You wanted the Divine Mountain of Shieling to attack our country. You have ulterior motives and are extremely vicious. This accusation was completely out of Xiaohao and Little Stone's expectations. The relationship between the Divine Mountain of Shieling and the Stone Kingdom, is there a problem? Little Stone raised his eyebrows. He only felt that Shurziting's words were simply ridiculous. Something's wrong. Xiaohao frowned slightly. He realized that the people who had been clapping and cheering for them were now looking at them with eyes full of hatred. What a vicious thief. Ulterior motives. These two thieves will die a horrible death. If the Divine Mountain of Shieling attacks in anger, the Stone Kingdom will be filled with rivers of blood. How hateful! These two thieves are actually so vicious. At this moment, the people around them gritted their teeth and cursed at Xiaohao and Little Stone. Even though these discussions were very soft, with their cultivation bases, they could naturally hear them clearly. Is the Divine Mountain of Shieling very powerful? Little Shurtu and Xiaohao looked at each other in dismay. They felt that this was simply too inexplicable. The divine mountain of Shieling did not even dare to breathe loudly in front of them. Could it be that it was a huge threat to the Stone Kingdom? The Stone Kingdom only has the human emperor as a venerable. Naturally, they are at a disadvantage when facing the divine mountain of Shieling. However, to us, the divine mountain of Shieling is not worth mentioning. Xiangqi hurriedly reminded them. So, the divine mountain of Shieling is so powerful outside. Little Stone smiled indifferently and explained to the crowd, "Everyone, don't worry. I've beaten up people from the divine mountain of West Hill. They won't dare to cause any trouble." "Scoundrel, how dare you mislead the crowd with your lies?" Shi Ziding was unable to restrain his anger. He pointed at the two of them and said, "Considering that you two are still young, quickly admit your guilt and submit to the law. Otherwise, my Stone Kingdom is not so easy to bully. I'm spreading lies to mislead people." Little Shi turned around and stared at Shi Ziding. As a member of the Stone Country's royal family and a descendant of the martial imperial manor, you are actually bowing down to a wild beast? Allowing wild beasts to run amok in the capital of Stone Kingdom? Let the wild beasts insult us as lowly humans in the capital of the Stone Kingdom? At this point, little Shidu's voice became impassioned. "Citizens of the Stone Kingdom, our backs are straighter than the mountains, and our blood is hotter than lava. 10,000 years ago, our ancestors stepped out of the desolate mountains. Surrounded by wolves, they fought for this vast territory with hot blood and swords. Have you forgotten the glory of your ancestors after 10,000 years? Are your bones already soft?" Little Shitu's words were powerful and resonant, enlightening even the apathetic. However, how arrogant. You only know how to boast. The divine mountain of West Hill has 4 venerables. When the venerables are angry, blood will flow. Our Stone Kingdom only has the human emperor. If the venerables of West Hill attack, how can we resist? With just you guys? Shi Ziding sneered disdainfully and refuted little Shirtu loudly. Hearing this, the hot-bloodedness that had been stirred up by little Shidu's words instantly cooled down. For venerables, what kind of terrifying power was that? This was not something that could be resisted by hot-bloodedness alone. Yes, with just me. Little Shirtu stood up straight, his aura high. With just me, with just my name. My name is Tai Hao. My name is Xiao Hao. At this time, Xiao Hao also stepped forward and reported his name along with little Shirtu. Tai Hao, Xiao Hao. So it's them. No wonder they don't care about the divine mountain of West Hill. It is said that a few years ago, in the Battle of North Sea, 2 people fought against 100,000 cultivators and killed them all. Such people naturally don't care about the divine mountain of West Hill. Unfortunately, Tai Hao and Xiao Hao are not afraid of the divine mountain of West Hill. Our Stone Kingdom is still inferior to the divine mountain of West Hill. If only Tai Hao and Xiao Hao were from our Stone Kingdom. When they heard Tai Hao and Xiao Hao report their names, the surrounding people were shocked. Tai Hao and Xiao Hao's names shook the world and reverberated like thunder. Now that they saw the real person, everyone praised in their hearts, as expected of a young hero. Other than that, I have another name. Little Shirdu stared coldly at Shi Ziding, and a cold smile appeared on his lips. My ancestor, Shi Zhongtian. My father, Shi Xiling. My name is Shi Hao, Shi Zhongtian, Martial Imperial Manor's Lord 15. Tai Hao is Shi Hao. Tai Hao is from the Martial Imperial Manor. Tai Hao is our Stone Kingdom's royal family. Tai Hao is from a Stone clan, so Xiao Hao must be too. Ha ha! God bless our country. Tai Hao and Xiao Hao are actually our Stone Kingdom's royal family. With such heroes, who in the world dares to bully our Stone Kingdom? When they heard little Shida's announcement, the surrounding people were overjoyed and cheered loudly. My uncle, you want to put a hat on our heads? Wishful thinking. Little Shirtu stared coldly at Shi Ziding, his face full of disdain. As a member of the royal family, You are actually servile in front of a foreign race. You are a disgrace to our ancestors and have lost your identity as a member of the Stone Clan. Uncle, follow me to the ancestral hall and admit your guilt before our ancestors." He reached out and grabbed, and a mighty divine radiance bloomed. A boundless power suppressed Shur's eating until he could not move. Like an eagle catching a chick, he grabbed him in his hand. "Let's go." Back to the martial imperial manor. Little Shurtu waved his hand and strode towards the martial imperial manor. Xiaohao brought Xiongqi and the sky-devouring sparrow and followed closely behind, heading straight for the martial imperial manor. It seems like Taihao and the martial imperial manor have some grudges. Seeing this, someone sighed. A lifetime of internal strife is not a good thing for our stone kingdom. Legend has it that the martial imperial manor has a natural-born supreme being other than the man with dual pupils. However, this supreme being's bone was dug out when he was still an infant, and no one knows if he is still alive. Could it be that Taihao was that natural-born supreme being? If that's the case, then it's no wonder. The natural-born supreme being's bone was dug out, but he still rose up and was still unrivaled. As expected of a natural-born supreme being, everyone discussed spiritedly. However, the martial imperial manor's matters were not something they could meddle in. "Uncle, you exiled my entire family back then. You didn't expect me to return one day, did you?" Little Shurtu carried Shurzeeding and sneered as he strode towards the martial imperial manor. "You think you've won?" Even though Shurzeeding was in little Shidu's hand, he still sneered. "Kid, this world is bigger than you think. The wasteland is only a small place. There are even more powerful forces out there. The forces behind you are nothing." More powerful forces? No wonder Uncle dared to make trouble for us. So you have something else to rely on. Unfortunately, you are destined to miscalculate. Little Shidu's footsteps stopped in front of the martial imperial manor's gate. Looking at the ancient and majestic gate, he took a deep breath. "Martial imperial manor, I'm back." Chapter 644. Who are you? Enemy attack. When the two guards at the entrance saw little Shurtu standing outside, they were about to ask when they suddenly saw little Shurtu holding Shurzeeding in his hand. They immediately turned pale with fright and cried out in fear. "This is a family matter of the martial imperial manor. Leave quickly." Little Shurtu didn't want to bicker with the guards. With a wave of his hand, he pushed the two guards aside and stepped into the martial imperial manor. "Who dares to cause trouble in my martial imperial manor?" The guards' enemy attack alarmed everyone in the manor. When Xiaohao, little Shurtu, and the others stepped into the martial imperial manor, a group of figures with vast auras immediately rushed out. Zeeting, seeing little Shurtu holding Shurzeeting in his hand, the people of the martial imperial manor were furious. "Bastard! How dare you? Do you think my martial imperial manor has no one? Let him go quickly. Otherwise, no matter where you come from, your entire family will be exterminated." The elders of the martial imperial manor led a group of people and surrounded little Shurtu and his group. Everyone's faces were filled with shock and anger. "Exterminate your entire family? Are you planning to kill yourselves?" Little Shurtu sneered and glanced at these people. "My ancestor, Shi Zhongtian. My father, Shi Xiling. I'm sure how. Don't you remember? I'm the one who had his supreme being bone dug out back then. Do you remember now?" "What? It's you?" After little Shurtu reported his background, everyone looked at each other. That child was still alive? Did he come back to settle the score? "Since you're back, it's not impossible to let you join the family. However, you dare to rebel against your superiors? Zeeting is your uncle. How dare you treat him like this? Why aren't you letting him go? Otherwise, the family law will be merciless and will not let you off easily." An elder stared at little Shurtu with a gloomy face and loudly reprimanded him. "Ha! You're talking about family law with me?" Little Shurtu laughed loudly, and his face was filled with disdain. "When my supreme being bone was dug out back then, where was the family law? The family law was my entire family being exiled. My entire family being hunted down? Little Shitta's face was filled with a cold smile. Today, I'm back to carry out the family law. Anyone who is related to what happened back then will be punished according to the family rules. Bastard, how dare you be so rebellious? The elders who had been involved in this matter back then were shocked and angry. Their eyes were filled with cold light. This brat is arrogant and unruly. He should be punished according to the family rules. Of course, several elders waved their palms and attacked little Shirtu together. Only by killing all of you can I be considered as upholding the family law. Little Stone laughed coldly and swept out with his palm. He did not use any precious techniques, nor did he use any divine abilities. He only used the power of his body to slap out, and the elders were sent flying while coughing up blood. This vile creature is not weak. Quickly invite the Saint Envoy. The few elders couldn't even block a single move. They hurriedly shouted, wanting to invite some Saint Envoy. I'm already here. A stream of light pierced through the air and arrived. As the multicolored light flickered, an old man wearing a high hat and a wide belt appeared on the scene. Greetings, Saint Envoy. After that old man appeared, the elders of the martial imperial mansion led the crowd and bowed to him. Their attitudes were extremely respectful. And the old man indifferently nodded. He stood with his hands behind his back and arrogantly glanced at Little Stone. I didn't think that a broken place like the wasteland region would produce someone with such a tyrannical body like you. Not bad. He glanced at Little Stone as if he was examining him. The old man slightly nodded. Your body is strong and can be used. Brat, this old man's family still lacks a servant to carry water and gather firewood. Kowtow. This old man will bestow upon you an opportunity. Chi. Little Stone was so angry that he laughed. Who do you think you are? Bastard. Audacious. Hearing this, the elders of the martial imperial mansion impatiently jumped out as if their parents had been insulted. This old man is an outer court attendant of the Heaven-Mending sect. The Heaven-Mending sect is a great sect of the mysterious region. The Heaven-Mending Pavilion of your wasteland region was created by an expelled disciple of my Heaven-Mending sect. The old man raised his head with a face full of arrogance. In his opinion, as long as he announced his name, the wasteland region's bumpkins would be scared out of their wits and tremble in fear. A sect outside the region? Little Stone glanced at the elders of the martial imperial mansion. He shook his head and sighed. This is the branch you're trying to climb? After handing Shirziding over to Xiaohao, Little Stone reached out and pulled out the long sword at his waist. His killing intent surged, colluding with the powers of the region and the foreign races. The martial imperial mansion is already rotten. Only fresh blood can wash away this filth. Bastard, you're courting death. The elders were furious, and their eyes emitted an ominous glint. Wasteland region's barbarian, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know the name of my Heaven-Mending sect. The Heaven-Mending sect attendant's face was ice cold. He waved his hand, and a huge beast claw appeared, grabbing towards Little Stone's head. So you're just a beast. Too old. I guess your meat won't taste good. Little Stone curled his lips and casually slashed out with his sword. The sword light whistled through the air, tearing apart the clouds. Even if he did not use the nine-leaf sword grass's precious technique, Little Stone's sword still contained the sword intent of the nine-leaf sword grass. Once the sword slashed out, nothing could block it, nothing could not break it. Blood splattered everywhere. A huge black lynx reverted to its original form and fell to the ground. The Heaven-Mending sect's so-called outer sect attendant could not block Little Stone's casual attack. What? Sir Divine Envoy died? Damn it, you've caused a disaster. The elders were so scared that their faces turned pale. You should worry about yourselves. Little Stone raised his long sword. You colluded with foreign races, colluded with foreign powers, and conspired with evil intentions. I, in the name of the martial imperial manor's successor, am following the rules of our ancestors to cleanse the clan of filth. Those who have nothing to do with this matter, quickly leave. Under Little Stone's warning, many of the clan members who had little to do with this matter left one after another. Only a few elders and Sher Zeding's bloodline remained. They were the core members who had colluded with foreign powers. First, you colluded with the demonic spirit lake, and now you colluded with foreign powers. You all deserve to die. Little Stone held his sword and attacked. His sword light crisscrossed, and no one was a match for him. In an instant, the elders and Sher Zeding's bloodline were all killed. Stop! At this moment, a figure whistled through the air. It was as bright as the sun in the sky. Martial King! Martial King, save us! This brat attacked the martial imperial manor and caused heavy casualties. Martial King, avenge our clan members. Seeing Martial King appear, Sher Zeding, who was caught by Xiao Hao, hurriedly shouted, Martial King! Little Stone looked at the figure in the air and shook off the blood on his sword. Martial King, these people colluded with foreign races, colluded with foreign powers, and conspired with evil intentions. I killed them to prove the rules of the clan and the laws of the country. Does Martial King have any objections? Rules of the clan and the laws of the country? I am Martial King. If there's a need to carry out the rules of the clan, it should be me, not you. Martial King coldly stared at Little Stone. Especially when he saw the heaven-mending sex deacon who had been killed, his pupils shrank and his face was filled with anger. So, it was all your orders? No wonder they dared to collude with foreign races and foreign powers. Martial King, are you coveting the throne of the human emperor? Little Stone raised the long sword in his hand. The martial imperial manor is indeed rotten from top to bottom. I can only clean it up properly. Young man, don't be too arrogant. People who are too arrogant won't live long. Behind King Wu, another figure flashed out. It was a skinny old woman. However, the old woman's body emitted a chilling aura that was as deep as a bottomless abyss. A venerable? So Martial King has climbed up a branch. Seeing this venerable realm old woman, Little Stone's face became even colder. Chapter 645. Young man, you dare to kill a deacon of my heaven-mending sect. The old woman stared at Little Stone with a gloomy face. My heaven-mending sect's people can't be killed by anyone. You have to pay with your life. Too noisy. Little Stone frowned impatiently. Heaven-swallowing sparrow, send her away. Don't let her bother me. Yes. The heaven-swallowing sparrow in human form bowed to Little Stone and then turned to stare at the old woman with a ferocious expression. Bitch, get over here. Bastard, you're courting death. The old woman was furious. Just as she was about to attack, she suddenly sensed the aura of the heaven-swallowing sparrow. Her expression immediately changed. You're also, I'm your grandpa. The heaven-devouring sparrow flew into the sky and reached out with its hand. A huge bird claw appeared and descended from the clouds, ruthlessly grabbing towards the old woman. Old Swallow, this is the young master's home. Don't break anything. Cheongqi waved his hand and released a light barrier to protect the area below. He raised his head and shouted at the heaven-swallowing sparrow. There's another supreme expert? Damn it. The old woman's expression changed greatly. Her figure flashed, and she turned around to escape. You want to run? Let's see where you can run to. Seeing the old woman escape, the heaven-swallowing sparrow quickly chased after her. I don't know if that old woman has any helpers. Cheongqi, follow her. Don't let the heaven-swallowing sparrow suffer. Xiao Hao instructed Cheongqi. Cheongqi quickly rushed out and chased after the heaven-swallowing sparrow. Two supreme experts under her. Seeing this, the martial king's expression changed. He then smiled at Little Stone and Xiao Hao. You must be sure, Hao. I didn't expect you to grow so big. My martial imperial manor has a successor. Don't talk nonsense. It's useless to say more. Little Stone waved his hand in disdain and pointed his sword at the martial king. Colluding with a foreign power, harboring evil intentions, conspiring against the law. You want to seize the throne? What do you know? The world is about to change. A great calamity is about to rise. Gods are no better than dogs. Everyone at the Exalt realm and above would perish. Emperors can't escape. As the martial king, I naturally have to control over the situation. Befriending the outer realm forces is just a precautionary measure. Seeing that little Shurtu was unwilling to give up and insisted on attacking, the martial king was enraged. He angrily rebuked little Shurtu. Is this the reason why you colluded with the extraterrestrial forces? They'd been reduced to puppets of the powers outside the three dimensions, and they'd buried the foundation of their ancestors for the sake of struggling at death's door. As a martial king, don't you feel ashamed? Martial king, are you worthy of the word martial? Little Shurtu raised his sword. So what if it's a great calamity? My Stone Clan's people are indomitable, and our backs are like mountains. When had he ever submitted? No matter how strong the enemy is, we can only fight. Well said. A brilliant golden light shot out from the direction of the Imperial Palace. The vast golden radiance was like the sun in the sky, brilliant and resplendent. Amidst the golden light, an imposing figure wearing an imperial robe walked over step by step. Human sovereign. Seeing this figure, King Wu's expression changed greatly, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Shurhao's two supreme expert realm subordinates moved out to tie down the human emperor's heaven-mending sex supreme expert. They had no choice but to flee from Stone Country capital. Now, it was dangerous. We pay our respects to the human sovereign. Little Stone and Xiaohao both paid their respects to Stone Country's human sovereign. A young hero is indeed extraordinary. The human sovereign nodded in admiration. Only after receiving the report did I know that Taihao and Xiaohao were you two. Good children. My Stone Country has a successor. Taihao, Xiaohao, it's actually you two? When he thought of Taihao and Xiaohao's terrifying reputation and the power behind them that even destroyed the demonic spirit lake, King Wu's face was full of shock. He was speechless for a long time. Old 5. The human sovereign turned his head to look at King Wu. He sighed and shook his head. Doing this is equivalent to burying the foundation of your ancestors. You'll become puppets of the powers outside the three dimensions, puppets of the different races, and be at the mercy of others. Before long, Stone Country will be destroyed. Destroyed? You're the one that will be destroyed. King Wu pointed at King Wu and shouted hysterically. Once the great calamity comes, all existences above the supreme expert realm will be wiped out. So what? King Wu smiled indifferently. As long as I'm alive, no one will dare to touch this country. If I die, speaking of this, King Wu looked at Little Stone and Xiaohao. If I die, they're still them, right? They're just two immature brats. What do they know? King Wu roared furiously. At least, they'll fight for this country. The human emperor smiled and said, just this point alone makes me much stronger than you. He reached out and pressed down. A jade seal rushed out from King Wu's hand. It exploded with golden light and pressed down on King Wu. You really want to kill me? King Wu's face was ferocious as he struggled with all his might. However, with the cultivation of a supreme expert realm cultivator, how terrifying was the power of the human sovereign seal. King Wu's cultivation was only at the noble realm. He couldn't resist at all. Puff! The human sovereign seal pressed down and imprinted on King Wu's head. With a slight boom, King Wu's eyes were dazed. His soul was destroyed, and he fell to the ground. We're brothers after all. I'll let you be buried in the ancestral tomb. With a wave of his sleeve, King Wu's body was put away. He nodded at Xiaohao and Little Stone and returned to the palace. King Wu has fallen? Sure, Zeding's face was lifeless. He was dazed. Heaven-mending sex backer had been beaten away. King Wu was already dead. They had suffered a crushing defeat. Yes, King Wu has fallen. You should be on your way too. Little Stone stabbed out with his sword. The sword pierced through Shur Zeding's head and killed him on the spot. King Wu's manner has already been cleansed. Holding his sword, Little Stone turned his head and looked in the other direction of Stone Capital. We can't let the Rain clan go either. Rain Clan, I don't want to let them go either. Xiaohao touched the long blade at his waist. His eyes were cold. Back then, the Rain Clan also caused me to be in a miserable state. What are you waiting for? Kill them all. Leaping up, the two of them flew with the wind and rushed to the Rain Clan's residence. Rain King Manor. Hee, today, this place is destined to be destroyed. Little Stone raised his sword. Divine splendor surged, and sword light shone resplendently. Three spirits, true form sword. Slash. With a slash of the sword, dragon teeth, phoenix beak, and Chelan horn appeared. Boundless divine might covered the sky and earth as it crushed down. Three spirits, true form sword, a divine artifact. How terrifying was the might of a divine artifact. Moreover, Little Stone already had the cultivation of a supreme expert. He could completely use the true power of a divine artifact. The divine spirit realm was a level even more powerful than the supreme expert realm. Igniting a divine flame, one's life would be refined. From an ordinary being to an extraordinary being, one would break away from the level of mortals and become a divine. With a slash of the sword and the appearance of the three spirits' true form, the entire Rain King Manor was directly crushed. What a powerful slash! When the human emperor saw this slash, a look of shock appeared on his face. Divine artifact? To be able to use a divine artifact to this extent, this brat's strength is at least at the peak of the noble king level. With a wave of his hand, an imperial edict appeared on the desk. Since you have the strength of a noble king, then I'll give you a title. The human emperor raised his brush and wrote down 2 imperial edicts. Imperial edict. Grant Xiaohao the title of Wasteland Marquis. Imperial edict. Grant Xiaohao the title of Heavenly Marquis. Chapter 646. Wasteland Marquis. Hao Ian Marquis. The 2 imperial edicts emitted an endless amount of golden light as their mighty voices shook the heavens and earth. At this moment, the entire Stone Country received the 2 imperial edicts and knew that Taihao and Xiaohao had been conferred the titles of Wasteland Marquis and Hao Ian Marquis by the human emperor. So Taihao and Xiaohao are the royal family of Stone Country. That's great. Taihao and Xiaohao's names shook the world. They were known as the Youth Paragon and were invincible. In addition, it was rumored that these 2 had terrifying backers. Even a sacred place like the demonic Spirit Lake could be destroyed at a whim. For such powerful figures to come from Stone Country, the people of Stone Country were proud of them. Youth Paragon? Invincible? That's a great title. In a restaurant in Stone City, a man with 2 horns on his head and fiery red hair snorted as he slammed the wine bottle in his hand. The waste region is already in ruins. And I can just laugh at the so-called Youth Paragon in this place. A young man with skin that emitted a metallic luster as if it was cast from gold smiled calmly, as if he did not care about this so-called Youth Paragon at all. I heard that those 2 fellows have a very strong backer. If that's the case, I'm afraid it's not good for our sex plan. The man with 2 horns frowned slightly. Backer? What kind of backer could they have? No matter how strong the waste region's backer is, in front of the great sex of the upper realm, isn't it just an ant? The world is changing. Gods are worse than dogs. No matter how strong their backer is, won't it be destroyed in the blink of an eye? The golden-skinned young man waved his hand nonchalantly. Our backer is the real backer. The Western sect is a great sect in the upper realm. The human emperor of Stone Country has received their help, and his attitude has become much tougher these 2 days. Senior Brother Jean, should we go and take their limelight? The young man with 2 horns suggested to Senior Brother Jean. If those 2 clowns continue to jump around like this, it'll be difficult for our plan to take control of Stone Country to begin. What Junior Brother Nyo said makes sense. Senior Brother Jean put down the wine bottle and nodded slightly. Today is their opening day. Of course, we have to send them a congratulatory gift. The calamity of the lower realm was about to begin. Many inheritances from the upper realm who were tasked with missions began to roam the wilderness and set up a contingency plan. At this moment, there were already many disciples from the great sects outside the Stone Kingdom's capital. Originally, these sects had already colluded with many forces in the Stone Kingdom. However, with Tai Hao and Xiao Hao's high-profile return, the human emperor became even more confident and suppressed King Wu in one move. The other nobles who were ready to make a move had already retreated in fear. Ha ha! Congratulations to the two marquises for opening their residences. Marquis Wasteland, Marquis Haotian. In the capital of the Stone Kingdom, two neighboring manors have been renovated. They hung up plaques with the words Wasteland Marquis Estate and Haotian Marquis Estate, officially opening for business. Within the Stone Capital, all the marquises and citizens came to congratulate him. The sky-swallowing sparrow and Xiongqi were so busy that their feet barely touched the ground. They had almost become housekeepers. Fortunately, the mortal emperor had given them some help as well. Otherwise, these two Exalt Realm ferocious beasts would really not know how to deal with such miscellaneous matters. Thank you. Many thanks. Xiao Hao and Little Shirtu had changed into marquis robes. With a smile on their faces, they cupped their fists and bowed in all directions to express their thanks. Marquis Wasteland, Haotian Marquis, one is named after the Wasteland region, and the other is named after Haotian. What big words! I want to see if you can live up to this name. A cold snort sounded. A young man with two horns on his head and a young man with skin that shone with a metallic luster slowly walked out from behind the crowd. An enormous aura rushed out, and the vast power forced the surrounding crowd to retreat far away. Xiao Hao frowned. You know that we are opening a residence, yet you still dare to provoke us. You two must not be from the Wasteland region. You bumpkins from the Wasteland region, listen carefully. We are from the Xian region, and we are from the Western sect. The so-called sacred grounds of the Wasteland region are not even fit to carry our shoes in front of the great sects. Junior brother Nyo of the Western sect arrogantly raised his head and glanced at Xiao Hao and Little Shirtu with disdain. I heard that the Wasteland region has two so-called young sovereigns. It should be you two, right? I still need a servant to lead my horse, and you two are just right. Why aren't you kowtowing and thanking me? Bastard. Preposterous. Hearing junior brother Nyo's words, the surrounding people were furious and began to angrily denounce him. Xiongqi. Xiao Hao waved at Xiongqi. Today is an auspicious day for the opening of the residence. It's not good to see blood. Yes. Xiongqi bowed and accepted the order. Then, he walked in front of the two people from the Western sect with a sinister smile. A bull and a scarab. Since young master doesn't want to see blood, then let's not see blood. He stretched out his hand, and a huge palm print appeared. Xiongqi attacked, and a monstrous aura surged into the sky. A supremacy? He's a supremacy? When such a power appeared, the two people from the Western sect were so scared that their faces turned pale. They had no strength to resist at all. With just a grab, the two people were caught in his hand. Damn it! How dare you be disrespectful to the Western sect? Don't think that being a supremacy is amazing. The great calamity is coming. If you want to live, then kowtow and apologize. Otherwise, all of you will die. Even though they were caught, the two people from the Western sect were still very unyielding and kept shouting, "You're courting death." Xiao Hao shook his head, and a trace of coldness appeared in his eyes. Xiongqi, I only said that we can't see blood. This subordinate understands. Xiongqi laughed loudly. His body swayed, and he rushed into the sky, revealing his enormous original form. Then, he opened his mouth and swallowed the two people from the Western sect. He swallowed them in one bite? That's the Western sect, an incomparable great sect that has been passed down since ancient times. Those bumpkins from the Wasteland region actually dared to provoke them. The great calamity is coming. If they don't find a great sect to rely on, the supremacy will undoubtedly die. They actually dared to offend a great sect? In Stone Capital, there are many people from outside the region. When they saw Xiao Hao give the order without hesitation to have Xiongqi kill the people from the Western sect, They were so shocked that their faces turned pale. The Immortal Mountain's decree has arrived. Tai Hao, Xiao Hao quickly received the decree. At that moment, a divine light tore through the sky and arrived. A green-robed man landed in front of Xiao Hao and Little Stone. In his hand was a decree that shone with divine splendor. You want us to receive the decree? What kind of thing is the Immortal Mountain? Do you think you're the emperor? You dare to give us a decree? Little Stone took a step forward and angrily rebuked that person. Scoundrel! The Immortal Mountain's green-robed man's face was ashen. You scoundrel! I come from the Immortal Mountain. My surname is Qin. And? Surnamed Qin? Little Stone frowned. This person was surnamed Qin. Little Stone's mother was also surnamed Qin. Do you understand now? The green-robed man coldly snorted. Since you understand now, kneel down and receive the decree. After waving the decree in his hand, the green-robed man glanced at Qiongqi and the heaven-swallowing sparrow. The great calamity is coming. Without the protection of a great sect, the supremacy will undoubtedly die. From today onwards, you will follow the Immortal Mountain's orders. After you complete your tasks, I can give you a chance to rely on the Immortal Mountain. It seems like you don't know my temperament at all. Little Shirtu shook his head. Even if you have some sort of relationship with me, you still act all high and mighty and arrogant. I won't fall for that. Get lost. And you dare to go against the Immortal Mountain's decree? The green-robed man's face turned cold. You better think it through. Your parents are still in the Immortal Mountain. You dare to threaten me? Little Stone's pupil shrank. He waved his hand. Heaven-swallowing sparrow, capture him. I still want to ask him a few things. Don't kill him. Yes. The heaven-swallowing sparrow leapt up and reached out. An enormous bird claw appeared and grabbed the green-robed man from the Immortal Mountain. In front of a supremacy, this disciple of the Immortal Mountain was similarly powerless. Evil creature, you really have guts. Shut up. The heaven-swallowing sparrow swept out with a slap, directly knocking this person unconscious. Too powerful. Exterminating the Western sect's disciple and capturing the Immortal Mountain's disciple. These two are too savage. Chapter 647. Ding dang, ding dang. At this moment, a melodious wind chime sounded. A moonlight radiated out, and a faint osmanthus fragrance wafted through the air. A woman in snow-white clothes with a graceful figure and picturesque features walked over with light steps. She was like a fairy that had descended to the mortal world. Yuchan has come late to congratulate you, junior brothers. I hope you can forgive me. The woman named Yuchan slowly walked in front of the two of them and bowed to greet them. Junior brothers? Ha! Little Stone laughed and sneered. Just now, someone came to claim to be a relative, and now, someone came to claim to be a master. If you want to be my senior sister, you'll have to train for a few more years. I'm the only current successor of our sect. Even Tai Hao is a disciple outside the sect. What qualifications do you have to be able to join our sect? How could the inheritance of the Supreme Hall be faked? Xiao Hao looked at Yuchan with a cold gaze. HM, could it be that these two really are from a great sect? Yuchan's heart tightened, but she didn't show it on her face. She still had a smile on her face, like a spring breeze. The two of you are from the Heaven Mending Pavilion. The Heaven Mending Pavilion is a branch of the Heaven Mending sect in the Wasteland. Thus, the two of you are naturally my junior brothers. Don't talk nonsense. Xiao Hao coldly glanced at Yuchan. 2 days ago, Qiongqi and the heaven-swallowing sparrow killed a venerable who tried to interfere with our Stone Country's affairs. It seems that he came from the Heaven Mending sect. You also want to interfere with our Stone Country's affairs? Perfect. The heaven-swallowing sparrow hasn't eaten yet. Xiao Hao, this is your fault. Little Stone walked up with a strange smile. How can such a delicate beauty be fed to the heaven-swallowing sparrow? Of course, we'll capture her to warm our bed. All right. Xiao Hao shook his head. Do as you wish. Junior brothers, you must be joking. Yuchan's expression didn't change, but her gaze turned cold. The two of you are both young talents. Even your subordinates are at the venerable realm. They are indeed extraordinary. However, the great calamity was about to happen. Without the protection of the great sects, the venerable ones would definitely fall. Entering my heaven-mending sect is the best way out for you. At this point, Yuchan looked up at Xiong-Chi and the sky-devouring sparrow. Even if you don't think for yourselves, you have to think for them. If it had not joined the great sects, the venerable one would definitely die. How can you disregard the life and death of your subordinates for your own selfish reasons? He was obviously trying to drive a wedge between them. The 8 regions of the lower realm were cages, but they were also the medicinal fields of the supreme being of the upper realm. Every once in a while, the supreme being of the upper realm would descend to the lower realm and sweep away all the existences above the venerable realm in the 8 regions, plucking the great medicine of the world. Apart from this, the supreme beings of the higher realms were also searching for the supreme palace, precisely for the true primordial record's transcendence chapter. This was the truth of the so-called Great Calamity. You haven't even entered the sect, and you want to meddle in our family affairs? Little Shirtu stared at Yuchan, and a smile appeared on his face. Since you're so eager to enter the sect, I naturally have to fulfill your wish. Servant girl, come over and warm this master's bed. Hee-hee-ha-ha. At this time, a charming young girl covered her face and laughed, her figure drifting over. Young man, you have good taste. The saintess of the heaven-mending sect is perfect for warming your bed. Young man, let's work together. I'll help you capture her. The charming young girl exuded a sense of charm with every movement, but there was a hint of craftiness in her eyes. The demoness of the sky-severing sect has brought disaster to the world and is vicious. She once used a vicious scheme to harm tens of thousands of people. Junior brothers, don't be fooled. Yu Chan's pupil shrank when she saw the demoness appear. Oof. She's much better than someone like you who looks pure and holy on the surface, but is as vicious as a snake. The demoness fiercely glared at Yuchan, then smiled sweetly at Xiaohao and little Shirtu. Young masters, don't be fooled by her appearance. In fact, she's more vicious than anyone else. Don't worry, none of you can fool us. Xiaohao looked at little Shirtu with a smile. One is the saintess of the heaven-mending sect, and the other is the demoness of the sky-severing sect. We can capture them both. How can one servant girl be enough? That's right. You and I are brothers. We can each have one. Little Shirtu laughed loudly. He took a step forward and reached out to grab the demoness. So crude. The demoness put her hands together, and rays of light shot out from behind her, turning into 9 shining, furry tails. She really is a vixen. Little Shirtu laughed strangely and slapped out with his palm. His chi and blood surged, but he was still muttering, "Do I catch her to warm my bed? Or do I catch her and eat her? If you want to catch this older sister, how many more years do you need to learn?" Although the demoness was smiling, her hands were not gentle at all. The 9 tails shot into the sky, and rays of incomparably sharp sword light shot out. The 9 rays of sword light whistled through the air and fiercely slashed down at little Shirtu. You've cultivated your sword energy to the tails? When you cultivate, aren't you afraid of cutting yourself? Little Shirtu ignored the whistling sword light. His hands did not stop, and he continued to grab at the demoness. Clang, clang. When the sword light hit little Shida's body, it actually produced some sparks. It did not even break his skin. Your skin is so thick. The demoness was still teasing him, but her heart had already turned pale with fright. Such a strong defense was simply unheard of. It was too frightening. After making a wrong judgment and failing in one move, the demoness had no way to deal with little Shida's palm. You want to catch this older sister? You can't do it. Since she could no longer block this move, the demoness simply did not dodge, and allowed little Shirtu to grab her. She only smiled and nodded. Young man, this is not my real body. You can't catch me. Bang! With a loud explosion, the witch's entire body turned into flower petals that filled the sky and fell down like rain. It's just a spiritual body. I noticed it long ago. Little Shirtu waved his hand, and the flower petals in the sky gathered into a ball of light. He caught in his hand. With your aura here, you can't run away. On the other side, when Little Shirtu and the Demoness were fighting, Yu-chan also moved. Junior brother, Yu-chan will take her leave. Yu-chan's figure dashed out, and she turned into a streak of moonlight that broke through the sky, whistling as she rushed into the sky. Fairy, why are you in such a hurry? Xiaohao's feet tapped, and he rose with the wind, blocking in front of Yu-chan. It's late, and the night is as cold as water. Fairy, please warm my brother's bed. Young Master Xiaohao, you're making things difficult for me. Yu-chan stopped, and she lightly stretched her jade-like arms. Since young Master Xiaohao wants to teach me, Yu-chan is not talented, but I want to learn from you. Heaven-mending sect in the upper realm, Xiaohao has long heard of it. I want to learn from you. Xiaohao chuckled, and with a flick of his sleeve, he said, Fairy, please. Chapter 648. Phoenix Wings. Yu-chan's arms spread out. Multicolored light filled the sky, and 5 colored feathers fluttered about, turning into a pair of resplendent wings. The phoenix wings were like blades, hacking apart heaven and earth. As soon as she took action, Yu-chan used her most powerful strength. This was a remnant technique of the true phoenix precious technique. The archaic vicious ten's exceptional precious technique. Even if it was only a remnant technique, it still possessed extreme power. It was the heaven-mending sect's secret precious technique that was only passed down to the Holy Lady. A remnant technique of the true phoenix precious technique. Xiao chuckled. He had already cultivated the complete true phoenix precious technique to the point where he was even stronger than a phoenix at the same cultivation level. So why would he care about Yu-chan's remnant technique? Even if Xiaohao didn't use his full strength, Yu-chan still wasn't his opponent. Qi and blood rushed into the sky. Xiaohao didn't use any precious techniques or divine abilities, only sending out a fist. With a single fist, the phoenix wings loudly exploded. The incomparably tyrannical power didn't stop there. It blasted apart the phoenix wings and heavily smashed into Yu-chan's body. Yu-chan's entire body exploded into a rain of light. A mere spiritual body dares to take action against me? Are you trying to test out my strength? A holy lady and a witch. Both of you aren't easy to deal with after all. Xiao chuckled. With a wave of his sleeve, he gathered the scattered spiritual light and collected it into his hand. He turned around and landed on the ground. For you, this is your direct room, girl. With a wave of his hand, a sphere of spiritual light was tossed into the little stone's hand. Xiaohao said with a smile, there is her aura inside. If you want to catch her, you have to do it early. They've already run far away. They already ran. The little stone received the sphere of light. With a touch of his soul, he remembered the aura inside. He then casually crushed the sphere of light. Heaven-mending sect, Western sect, Immortal Mountain, and Sky-severing sect have all been chased away. The remaining small fries can't be let go either. Xiaohao raised his eyes towards Stone Capital and coldly snorted. These foreign powers actually dared to act so recklessly in my Stone Country, trying to control Stone Country and turn everyone in Stone Country into their puppets. What wishful thinking. Then we'll wipe them out. The little stone clenched his fists. His face was ice cold. Bang! Roar! The sky-devouring sparrow and Qiongqi revealed their true forms. They carried Xiaohao and Qiongqi into the sky and floated above Stone Capital. Their vast auras covered the sky and earth. I am Stone Country's wasteland marquee. I am Stone Country's heavenly marquee. Little Shirtu and Xiaohao stood on the back of the vicious beast. Divine splendor erupted as they loudly proclaimed, the foreign sects are plotting to overthrow our country. We hereby declare that all outsiders must leave the Stone Country within 2 hours. Those who remain after 2 hours will be killed without mercy. His voice was like thunder, shaking heaven and earth. Hearing this announcement, the expressions of all the foreign visitors in the stone capital changed. "Bastard! How dare you?" A figure covered in black mist, as if he was shrouded in a dark cloud, smashed the wine bottle in his hand to the ground with a bang and roared angrily. Two ignorant barbarians from the desolate region actually dare to look down on the inheritances of our great sex? Another figure with countless roots on his head slammed the table and stood up, unable to contain his anger. Today, Taihao and Xiaohao opened their sections. The Western sect, Immortal Mountain, and Heaven-Mending sect all went to probe. The Western sect's people were swallowed up, the Immortal Mountain's people were captured, and the Heaven-Mending sect's fairy Yu Chan's spiritual body was even destroyed. Another middle-aged man, with a single horn on his head, continued. He shook his head and said, "They didn't even give face to the three great sections. These two either have something to rely on, or they're just hotheads. Regardless of which one it is, they're not to be trifled with." Then what do? Those two fellows have two supreme, expert, vicious beasts under them. If we fight them head-on, we definitely won't be able to win. Could it be that we have no choice but to retreat? If we are chased out by two barbarians from the desolate region with just a few words, where will we put our face? The figure shrouded in black mist roared angrily. "Heh. The great sect's prestige cannot scare them, and we can't fight them head-on. Right now, we have to start from within Stone Country." The single horn man seemed to have a lot of wisdom in his hands. Don't you all have dealings with some of Stone Country's influential figures? These two brats, with their mere marquis status, actually dared to ignore the human emperor and privately order us to be chased out. This is a great taboo. It really is a great move. When they heard this, everyone's eyes lit up, and they immediately took action. Not long after, within Stone Country's imperial palace, countless officials began to accuse Marquis Wasteland and Marquis Haoyan. "Your Majesty, Marquis Wasteland and Marquis Haoyan have no regard for law and order. They actually disregarded the human emperor and privately ordered the expulsion of the foreign guests. This is truly treason." A noble sent a petition to accuse Xiaohao and Marquis Haoyan. "Your Majesty, the country's laws and decrees come from the hands of the human emperor. This is the order of the country. Marquis Wasteland and Marquis Haoyan have monopolized the government and privately issued decrees. It is clear how ambitious they are." Another official bowed towards the human emperor. "This official earnestly requests Your Majesty to kill these traitors and restore order to the country." This official concurs. A large group of officials and nobles all agreed, requesting the human emperor to issue a decree to kill Xiaohao and Marquis Haoyan. Sigh. After a moment of silence, the human emperor let out a long sigh. He looked up at these officials and nobles and shook his head. "If you guys hadn't jumped out yourselves, I wouldn't have known that so many people were colluding with the foreign sections." Standing up, the human emperor's face gradually turned cold. "You guys are the pillars of Stone Country, and many of you come from prestigious families. I didn't expect that you guys would choose to be dogs instead of good people. Your subjects are loyal and devoted to you. We will never be disloyal. These people were all righteous and strict. They seem to be loyal to the country and above board. Is that so?" The human emperor smiled and looked out of the palace. He said leisurely, 2 hours have passed. At this time, those foreign guests should have all been killed." "What?" Hearing the human emperor's words, the group of officials turned pale with fright. "This is a calamity. This is a calamity. Human emperor, the calamity is about to begin. You won't be able to escape it and will definitely die. You're actually so deranged that you want to drag us down with you? The disciples of the foreign sects have all died in Stone Country. The various sects will definitely be furious. Human emperor, let's see what you have to resist. You're going to die before the calamity arrives." Now that they had shed all pretense of cordiality, these officials and nobles didn't bother with any pretense. They directly pointed at the human emperor and cursed. "Your masters have all been killed. What gave you the courage to be disrespectful to me?" The human emperor snorted. With a wave of his hand, A large seal soared into the air and came crashing down. Puffed. Blood dyed the royal court. The officials and nobles who jumped out were all killed by the human emperor's seal. In stone capital. Kill. Xiao Hao slashed out and beheaded a man with a long horn on his forehead. At this point, all the foreign guests in stone capital had been wiped out. The 4 insects' claws that had reached for stone country were ruthlessly chopped off. Chapter 649. Preposterous. Truly arrogant to the extreme. The great sects in the outer realms were furious when they found out that their disciples had been killed in the desolate region. How can you be so unbridled with just a few supremacies backing you? The great calamity is coming. When the time comes, all of your supremacies will perish. Stone country will also fall into our hands. The great sect did not make any more moves. Instead, they remained silent, waiting for the arrival of the great calamity, waiting for the great change in the 8 realms. Once the great calamity was over, all of the supremacies would be wiped out. At that time, the entire 8 realms would fall into the hands of the great sections. This was the will of heaven. This was the might of heaven. No one could change it. Then, Liu expressed his disagreement. The so-called great calamity is coming. Liu raised his head to look at the horizon. When he saw the faintly discernible spatial cracks in the sky, a smile appeared on his face. Aren't you looking for the Supreme Hall? I'll show you the Supreme Palace. The incarnations of the sect masters did not have much value to Liu. At most, he would just casually send them away. It was not worth the effort. However, the incarnations of the sect masters were worthless, but the 2 treasures were extremely valuable. Endless immortal bell, and half of Small Pagoda's body. The body of the pagoda was fine, but he could not let go of the endless immortal bell. How could the peerless treasure of the endless immortal king be left outside and covered in dust? The great calamity is coming soon. The Fire Nation's capital still has the Supreme Palace's items. I'll let Xiao Hao take them back. Liu sent a message to Xiao Hao, instructing him to head to the Fire Nation's capital to take back the Supreme Palace's items. Ancestral Master has ordered me to head to the Fire Nation to take back the Supreme Palace's items. Xiao Hao did not dare to delay after receiving the order and hurriedly set off. Fire Nation? At this time, the Fire Nation is probably being targeted by the Outer Realms. Isn't Junior's sister, Hualing, Er's home in the Fire Nation? Let's pay her a visit. Little Stone rubbed his chin and sneered. Since we've already offended the Outer Realms, we might as well go all the way. Let's help Junior's sister Hualing, clean up these Outer Realm demons. Let's go then. Qiongqi and the heaven-swallowing sparrow were left behind to oversee the stone capital to assist the human emperor and prevent the foreign powers from launching another counterattack. Xiao Hao and Qiongqi spread their wings and soared into the sky, rushing in the direction of the Fire Nation. At this time, the Fire Nation was facing the same predicament as the Stone Nation. The great calamity was about to arrive. The great sect from outside the realm were pressuring them, and the nobles had other thoughts. The Fire Nation's human emperor was also facing the danger of facing the calamity. Undercurrents were surging within the Fire Nation. Human emperor, you must consider this carefully. The great calamity is coming. Only by joining the Solar Divine Palace will you have the chance to save your life. As the current holy son of the Solar Divine Palace, it is Hualing Er's good fortune to take her as my concubine. A human sovereign must not make a mistake. A golden-haired, golden-eyed young man, whose entire body was bursting with blazing flames, coldly glanced at the Fire Nation human sovereign and stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Damn it! Hualinger angrily gnashed her teeth. The vermilion bird tattoo on her forehead burst into flames that filled the sky, as if a vermilion bird had spread its wings and soared into the sky. Oomph! The Fire Emperor's eyes flashed coldly. How arrogant! Arrogant? That's because I have the right to be arrogant. The golden-haired man coldly laughed as he looked at the Fire Emperor and curled his lips in disdain. The great calamity is coming. The Fire Emperor and that vermilion bird guardian spirit are both in the midst of the calamity. If you dare to resist, only death awaits you. Joining the Solar Divine Palace is your only way out. Is that so? The disciples of the heaven-mending sect are not to be bullied by just anyone. Moonlight filled the air as Yuchan slowly walked into the main hall like a fairy, descending to the mortal world. The Fire Nation's princess was originally a disciple of the heaven-mending sect. The Solar Divine Palace's hands are reaching too far. Yuchan coldly glanced at the Solar Divine Palace's holy sun, then looked at the Fire Emperor and pointed at the sky. Human Emperor, quickly make a decision. There isn't much time left. Fire Emperor, the heaven-mending sect is not a good place to go. If the Fire Nation's princess enters the heaven-mending sect, who knows when she will be given to some disciple as a cultivation vessel. She might as well become this holy sun's concubine. Human Emperor, you must consider this carefully. The golden-haired man snorted at Yuchan, then calmly reminded the Fire Emperor. Aren't you all the same? Hualing, coldly snorted, and anger appeared on her face. Whether it was the heaven-mending sect or the Solar Divine Palace, they were all the same. None of them had good intentions. The Fire Emperor remained silent. In reality, Yuchan was right. Once the great calamity began, without the protection of the great sects, the Fire Emperor and the vermilion bird guardian spirit would definitely die. At that time, the Fire Nation would still fall into their hands. It seemed that there was no point in fighting now. Bedwarmer girl, so you're here? I've been looking for you for a long time. At this moment, two golden lights whistled through the air. Little Stone and Xiaohao's figures landed in the Fire Nation's imperial palace. It's you two. Yuchan's expression changed, and she tightly furrowed her brows. These two fellows were here. Things are going to be troublesome. Tai Hao, Xiaohao, you're here. Seeing these two, Hualing was very happy. Tai Hao and Xiaohao, you two are the two madmen from the Stone Nation. You expelled the great sects from outside the realm and killed their disciples. You're seeking death. The golden-haired man glanced at Xiaohao and Little Stone and harumphed loudly. Greetings, Fire Emperor. The two of them completely ignored the golden-haired man and bowed to the Fire Emperor. You two don't need to be so polite. The Fire Emperor smiled and nodded. He was also very happy with their arrival. Bastard, you two barbarians from the desolate region dare to be so rude to me when I'm asking? The golden-haired man shouted angrily. His entire body was covered in golden light. Scorching flames soared into the sky, and waves of heat surged like lava erupting. A feathered beast dares to put on airs in front of me. Xiaohao took a step forward and slapped down with his palm. His qi and blood surged into the sky. His vigorous qi and blood were like a vast ocean, surging violently. You dare to attack me? No matter how strong your body is, it's still just brute force. Golden Crow, true fire. The image of a golden crow appeared. Flames filled the sky and incinerated everything. If not for the protection of the Fire Nation's imperial palace, the entire palace would have been burned to the ground. In the Saint Sun's eyes, a barbarian with a strong body like Xiaohao would be burned to ashes in an instant under the Golden Crow True Fire. Golden Crow True Fire, this is all leftover from me. Xiaohao had practiced the Golden Crow treasure technique a long time ago. The Saint Sun's Golden Crow True Fire was really leftover. Completely ignoring the flames, Xiaohao slapped out with his palm. It pierced through the flames and landed heavily on the Saint Sun's chest. Bang! With a loud explosion, an incomparably powerful force exploded. The Saint Sun exploded into a cloud of blood mist. He was completely and utterly dead. Servant girl, where are you running to? When Xiaohao attacked, Little Stone roared and rushed toward Yuchan. Yuchan's expression changed drastically. She rushed out in a streak of moonlight and turned to run. This time, she was traveling with her real body and not her spiritual body. If she was really captured and brought back to warm his bed, then it would be unimaginable. You can't run. Go back and warm my bed obediently. Little Stone's figure shot into the sky and chased after Yuchan. Chapter 650. My two honorable nephews, you've wiped out the powers outside the Stone Country and are extremely famous. The Fire Emperor smiled as he looked at Xiao Hao with a profound expression on his face. Being able to become the human emperor meant that he wasn't a simple character. From the Fire Emperor's point of view, Xiao Hao and the others dared to act so recklessly and disregard the great sects outside the Stone Country. They didn't even care about the Fire Emperor's tribulations. I'm here on the orders of the Patriarch to retrieve the sect's belongings. Just now, I've offended you. Please forgive me. Xiao Hao smiled as he cupped his hands towards the Fire Emperor. He didn't elaborate further and only mentioned the words sect's belongings. Oh, may I know what your sect left behind in our country? If you need anything, please feel free to ask. The Fire Emperor didn't know what the so-called sect's belongings meant and could only reply politely. The sect's belongings are under the Fire Nation's divine tree. Xiao Hao pointed outside the main hall. There was a towering tree that pierced through the clouds and was emitting boundless fiery light. This fiery tree was the Fire Nation's first vermilion bird guardian spirit. It had once ignited its godly fire and ascended to the spiritual god realm. However, after a huge battle, its true spirit was destroyed and turned into an ordinary tree. Today, although it was extremely mystical, it no longer had any sentience. Guardian Spirit Divine Tree? Your sect's belongings are actually under the Guardian Spirit Divine Tree? The Fire Emperor was stunned and couldn't believe it. This was equivalent to someone telling you that there's something hidden under your bed. This was simply too frightening. How did the sect's belongings end up under the Fire Nation's Guardian Spirit Divine Tree? However, don't worry, Fire Emperor. I won't touch the Guardian Spirit Divine Tree. Xiao Hao smiled at the Fire Emperor. According to the Patriarch, there's only a spell talisman here. This item is rather dangerous. If something were to happen to it, I'm afraid it would be disastrous. It's that serious? Although the Fire Emperor was skeptical, he didn't want to give Xiao Hao face. If that's the case, please take back your belongings. Many thanks, Fire Emperor. Xiao Hao clasped his hands and bowed before following the Fire Emperor to the Guardian Spirit Tree. The sect's belongings are here. Pointing at the root of the divine tree, Xiao Hao waved his hand, and a loud, cracking sound rang out. It was as if space had been shattered. Beneath the Guardian Spirit Divine Tree, a spatial crack split open. Ferocious, peerless fiendish, monstrous fiendish chi. An endless murderous aura exuded from this crack. It was as if it was capable of destroying the heavens and earth, exterminating all living beings. It was as if it was a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. What is this thing? The Fire Emperor's face turned pale as cold sweat trickled down his forehead. Heavens, in the Fire Nation's capital city, beside the Imperial Palace, there was actually such a terrifying thing. After all these years, the fact that Fire Nation didn't suffer any mishaps and didn't die out was truly a blessing from the heavens. How terrifying was Xiao Hao's sect? How could an item that was left outside be so powerful? According to the Ancestral Master, this is the third killing spell of all eternity. Following the instructions given by the Supreme Hall, Xiao Hao waved his hand as a formless wave of energy swept across the spatial crack, causing the murderous aura to dissipate. Buzz. Within the spatial crack, a trembling sound could be heard. A palm-sized item that looked like a tortoise shell flew out from the crack and landed in Xiao Hao's hands. This tortoise shell looked extremely ancient. It didn't look like anything special, but the aura it exuded was so strong that it felt as if it could topple the earth. This belongs to the sect. Xiao Hao looked at the tortoise shell in his hands as he smiled and nodded at the Fire Emperor before keeping the tortoise shell. The spatial crack closed as the Guardian Spirit Divine Tree returned to its original state. The third killing spell of all eternity was placed in the Fire Nation's capital city. The Fire Emperor's forehead broke out in cold sweat once more. Xiao Hao, look around and see if there's anything left behind. An item that was left behind was the third killing spell of all eternity. If there's something left behind, would there be a fourth or fifth killing spell? Fire Emperor, don't worry. There's nothing left here that belongs to the sect. Xiao Hao laughed as he pointed in the direction of the medicine capital. There are still some items left behind by the sect. The ninth killing spell of all eternity is there as well. There's a ninth killing spell in the medicine capital? The Fire Emperor's mouth twitched. Why are all the items left behind by the sect in the Fire Nation? One is the third killing spell, and the other is the ninth killing spell. What about the others? From the first to the ninth, there's only 2. What about the other 7? Don't tell me they're also in the Fire Nation? Fire Emperor, you're worrying too much. Within my sect, there are only 2 eternal killing arrays that have been passed down. Xiao Hao felt helpless as well. The items left behind by the sect were all extremely powerful. It was no wonder that the Fire Emperor was worried. There's a total of 2 killing spells, and they're both in the Fire Nation. The Fire Emperor had a complicated look in his eyes. Speaking of which, does the Fire Nation have any enmity with your sect? Huh, Fire Emperor, you're thinking too much. Xiao Hao laughed as he shook his head. According to the Patriarch, when the elders of the sect set up the spell in the great wilderness, there was no Fire Nation then. The Fire Emperor's expression froze. All right, there was no Fire Nation then. How ancient is your sect? Thinking up to this point, the Fire Emperor finally understood why Xiao Hao dared to challenge the other great sections. For a sect to be so ancient, they must have a lot of resources. When the tribulation comes, they must have a way to overcome it, right? Nephew, the heavens and earth are changing and the tribulation is coming. I wonder if you have any good ideas? Virtuous nephew, please teach me. The Fire Emperor bowed respectfully towards Xiao Hao. Fire Emperor, you're too courteous. Xiao Hao hurriedly helped the Fire Emperor up. Uncle, you don't have to worry. The Patriarch said that this tribulation isn't a heavenly tribulation, but a tribulation of man. The Patriarch's true body is in the lower realm, and he's in charge of the great wilderness. If someone dares to harm the people, how could the Patriarch sit by and do nothing? Your Patriarch's true body is in charge of the great wilderness? If that's the case, there's nothing to worry about. Although the Fire Emperor said this, he was still worried. This was because he didn't know much about Xiao Hao's so-called Patriarch. He didn't know how strong this Patriarch was. Whether or not he could overcome the tribulation was still unknown. Fire Emperor, my Patriarch is the most powerful existence in the world. Having been reincarnated 100 times, how could Xiao Hao not know what the Fire Emperor was thinking? He then smiled and pointed toward the sky. Patriarch is a celestial. Celestial? The Fire Emperor trembled as his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. In the ancient records of the Fire Nation, the existence of Celestial was vaguely mentioned. Celestial was an immortal existence and could destroy the heavens and earth. Celestial was an existence that was above all living beings. Xiao Hao's sect actually had such a terrifying existence? No wonder they didn't care about the great sects and the tribulation. With such a strong backing, what was there to be afraid of? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.